Now broadcasting from the Next Gen Conservative Studio in sunny South Florida, bringing you the latest in politics, current events, and pop culture. This is the Whitfield Report with Sam Whitfield.
Alrighty, welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope everyone is doing well tonight. We have, I don't know, I think we might have a surprised guest.
Oh,
Tonight
hello,
on the show.
Very good to be on the show. I am Vivek Ramaswamy. Now, people are always saying, Vivek, there's lizard people controlling the world. Now, you or I might say, that's a little odd. That's a little odd of a thing to say, but what is the underlying wisdom there? What is the intuition at play? You know, people are upset and they feel like their leaders are cold, calculated, and they feel like they probably could eat people. And I don't want to be partisan. And that's why I'm running for president. Because we need leadership in this country that don't feel like a bunch of reptilian pedophile shapeshifters luring children into caves in the mountains.
right.
Right. Well,
Like even if this is true, even if they're not, it feels like they are. You know what I'm saying?
You can't blame one for intuiting that our leaders could be a bunch of reptilian shapeshifters drinking human blood in secret government bases.
Right.
Okay?
no, yeah, that's how a lot of people have been feeling for several years now.
More and more all the time. As a guy that doesn't feel like it's necessarily that bad, I try and tell them it's not that bad, but it feels that way. I gotta admit, as a guy that's like, it's not that bad, but feels like it's that bad.
No, but I mean, to be real, like Vivek really is our guy.
Yeah, he's great.
You know, Max and we both, I think, well, I don't want to speak for Max, but I think that him and I come from the same path, which is basically like libertarianism to conservatism via Trumpism.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
and you know,
the way I like Vivek too. It evidently Trump does as well. The thing with Vivek that I like is that Vivek is actually a lot like Trump, but without the, I guess, rough edges. Interestingly enough, Vivek is what I initially thought DeSantis was until Max pointed out some things that Ryan are on, and I'm like, oh shit, yeah, that's not good. So
you're so right. It comes down to, I mean, you say that he doesn't have rough edges. I think that both Trump and Vivek have one thing in common, which is that like they're willing to go into the lion's den. They're willing to go into places that are not comfortable and come out alive. And they do so in different ways. They have different styles.
Yeah.
Now, Vivek's style is to just use his superior intellect to take their hits against him and just like manipulate it and hit them back with something else.
Yeah.
Did you see him on the Don Lemon video? I mean, he's part of the reason why Don Lemon got fired.
I did. Well, I watched him on the last episode of the All In podcast where he was like, I think I'm the only one here who watches that podcast, but he like in 90 minutes he completely like outlined his platform very like succinctly, but also didn't really and like they weren't trying to like throw gotcha questions,
Right.
but like he basically said like he basically, from what I could tell, pretty much reiterated like a lot of Trump's like agenda points, but in his own like manner of speaking.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, but
you know.
I could say this. I've kept quiet up till now because like I got an interesting perspective being as I kind of know him. I've met him on many occasions at libertarian functions and conservative functions over the years. I wouldn't
Yeah.
say we're best friends, but we've talked and he's given speeches that I've really enjoyed.
Sure.
In situations that could be, seen as standing up. For example, the free speech event, I believe it was that he spoke at, that they were like yelling Nazis, and it's like you got this like you got this idiot guy who's the fucking keynote speaker, which wasn't him, but he was there at that event. He was there at a couple other like libertarian fundraisers and things and functions, and so I've gotten to kind of know the guy, and all I can say is he's really genuine. Like what he's saying now, he hasn't really changed much.
Well,
And
and
he's always nice to everybody. That's the thing you guys
Mhm.
kind of hit on. He's just perpetually nice, and I've never seen anybody say otherwise. Like as far as just a person, he's a good dude. As far as
if I had him on the show, I would ask him if he has read David Height's work, which I would estimate he probably has. Being such like a research driven guy, it seems, at least
Yeah.
from the outside. Because when he is giving speeches or talking publicly, he seems to purposely hit upon moral foundations that lots of people have, but he avoids one in particular, which would be disloyalty, which is very high among conservatives. And the way he does that, the way he's able to run against Trump but say good things about him, file lawsuits with the DOJ for injustice, which strategically makes sense. Look, if you're a candidate, a Republican candidate, they're going to do the same thing that they did to Trump if you're ever a threat to their power.
right.
Which
Yep.
Vivek would at
And-
least
and-
feel that he is.
And here's the real thing. It's like he's just a dude. His campaign staff has been built up over the course of this campaign. He's running. This is why I don't have a problem with him running against Trump, knowing the guy. Is he's
Mhm.
one of the few guys I ever vibed with at most of these libertarian things because we were more on the Trump tip from the beginning. I came
Yeah.
the exact opposite of Shmuley just because I'm older. I came in from the Reform Party movement, which at the time, when I was graduating high school, seemed like it had more potential and was more in line with my shit. And yes, Trump was a big part of that, but it fell apart when Trump left. And so I found myself like, if you wanted into like outside of red or blue, you went with libertarian. So, and he's kind of that too. That's why he was there, because he's more of a traditional libertarian leaning or libertarian conservative, like a minarchist. And he's always been brave like this, and he's running for president because he believes in what he's saying, not against anybody. He's running for president. He's one of those guys. And if it wasn't the Trump 2024, I would support him all the way. He's the only other candidate right now I would.
He's the only candidate, at least that I've heard. He actually made a point of this on the All In podcast when I listened to him.
But again, I had to say that I'm biased when I say that.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Well, to be fair though, Max, he is the only candidate I've heard so far that basically has said from the outset that all these charges against Trump are politically motivated and that they're bullshit, and that he would pardon Trump.
The exact thing I criticized DeSantis for, right? Not coming when they indicted him before. I was like, "Why? Where's his statement at all? He didn't say anything."
Where's Ron DeSantis on The Breakfast Club?
Yeah.
Where's Ron DeSantis on CNN getting Don Lemon fired? Where's Ron DeSantis like out there on the David Pakman show?
Bro.
And David's coming at him with these got you questions and trying to start beef with him and other candidates. And he's able to, in real time, flip it back on him and make David Pakman go on the defensive. Where is it? I don't see it.
Yeah.
Where's Ron?
I wanna go back a second and highlight the Breakfast Club is dangerous territory for a conservative candidate of any kind, let alone that, okay, maybe he had a better skin color for their preference, right? But other than that, like, that's brave for a Republican candidate for office to go on the Breakfast Club at all. Because
They
that's,
insinuated that he would say the N-word in private.
yeah.
They went hard after him. He's not scared of that. He's not scared to go into the
No.
uncomfortable part, and that's the part that you can admire as a man.
Yeah. Well, I do want to point out too, though, in regards to the Breakfast Club, the Breakfast Club, to their credit, at least had Rush Limbaugh on.
No, they
about
will. They'll have a conservative on, but you got to have balls of steel.
Oh, yeah.
Shmuley's right. You're not going to see Ron DeSantis do that. It's never going to happen. Never.
Yeah. Well, Shmuley is asking where is DeSantis on all these podcasts. The bigger question is, where's Ron DeSantis? Period.
Not Florida.
Not here. Not at the governor's mentioned. Lieutenant Governor Janet Nunez is doing a heck of a job right now.
Well, and I'm sick of the DeSantisites when he's running around running this campaign. These are people he hired. They're just grifting off of him. They're just trying to maximize the most amount of money. They're borderline, if not overtly, breaking campaign finance laws by moving a state fundraising from a state campaign to a federal campaign.
And we can't look past hiring a fucking groiper who then retweets a Nazi meme with DeSantis' face on it. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in campaign history. And if this was any other year in any other primary, that would be enough to drop out.
Now, I don't want to diminish his legacy in Florida with some of the stuff that he's done. However, I criticize his anti-free speech bill, and it is important to note that when comparing the legacies of Donald Trump as president and Ron DeSantis as governor, you need to consider that the state legislator was overwhelmingly conservative the entire time that Ron DeSantis was governor.
Yeah.
Whereas Donald Trump only had a majority for a very short period of his presidency.
And they were they were entirely focused on the healthcare bill that they never fucking manifested, by the way.
Now, when they tried to roadblock him on the border wall, what did Donald Trump do? He sued.
Right.
How many examples do we have?
He went through every legal process, and sometimes it was like, hey, here's a thing from 1862 that we could do.
Yeah.
Like, he tried. That's the thing, is he tried as much as a person being obstructed could. And yeah, he did pick bad people. And that's why I think Trump's revenge is going to be pure of him. And I don't think it's going to be tainted. And yeah, I think Ramaswamy makes a very fine consideration for a VP candidate. And I think the debate, he's probably going to mop the floor with them.
Yeah. I also want to say, speaking of
if they give him proper time, he'll mop the floor with them.
Speaking of VP and whatnot, I do want to say a big fuck you to Mike Pence. Long time coming, but still. Okay, so people are asking, Sam, are you going to talk?
Hey, that's not his concern.
Yeah, well, good one.
Let Mike let them eat cake, Pence over here.
Well, okay, so people were like, Sam, are you going to talk about the indictment on the show? I asked these two before we went live, and the thing is, do we really need to talk about this indictment?
I think we should. Like, I don't think Ray Ray did it, and I think it's ridiculous that they're accusing him of doing it.
Yup. Right. Free Ray Ray. Hashtag free Ray Ray.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. This indictment is ridiculous. Like, yeah, he sold drugs in the past. But like, that doesn't mean that he sold drugs this time.
Look, I know they found the cocaine in his house, right? But that don't mean it was his cocaine.
Yeah.
Uh,
Are they charging Joe Biden for cocaine at his house? No.
No, they found a serious. Yo, they found cocaine at Joe Biden's house and nobody got arrested. What the fuck is going on, America?
Yeah.
They-
Did they arrest Mitch McConnell
If
when
they-
they found
hold up.
cocaine on his boat?
If law enforcement officials found cocaine at your house, you would go to jail. I'm just saying.
oh yeah. Well, no. Let's not. I mean, they also
Like law enforcement. If let's imagine it's just a guy and he's not the president. At his house, his name's Joe Biden. They found a big old bag of cocaine, and nobody got arrested at all. And they're like, we don't know who could possibly have put this cocaine there. It must be nobody.
well.
You know what I think it probably was, actually, though? I think it was probably actually one of the fucking officers there, which makes them, whoever it is, it makes the Secret Service look like fools. That they have cameras everywhere. They know who goes in and out. You have to sign in. You take your ID, all this shit. They know. There's a short list of people who could have left that bag of cocaine at the White House.
Well,
And
Max, to
that's
be
like
fair,
what I mean by the degradation of our fucking institutions. Like the Secret Service is so incompetent, you could just like do blow on Joe Biden's desk and nobody fucking knows who did it.
To be fair, Max, the Secret Service has had to expend like an exorbitant amount of resources just keeping track of Joe Biden so that he doesn't, like fall down a flight of stairs again or something.
Well, he likes falling up. They had to give him the short staircase. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, Joe Biden falls. Joe Biden at this point falls more than Morpheus and I combined.
About the indictment, I said this was coming from the beginning, right? I said that they are trying to make a connection and get those convictions on Proud Boys and Oath Keepers and things like that, where they got them on sedition charges and they found a jury willing to convict, and that builds a case towards insurrection, and then Trump is directly involved, so we're going to charge him. This was the end game all along. But an indictment doesn't mean anything. He's been indicted all these times. Yeah, sure. But the old saying goes, and it's true, you could indict a ham sandwich. They have. They've actually indicted ham sandwiches before, because that's like an indictment is a grand jury looks at the evidence and they're like, is there probable cause to take this to the next level? And if the answer is yes, then it can go to the next level, and then they try and pressure you into taking a deal. But Trump's not going to take any deal. He already said he'll run from a prison cell.
The thing of it is, Steve Turley actually brought this up. He's like a conservative YouTuber, commentator guy. I mean, the Senate already looked into this and basically said that Trump didn't.
Right.
So that right there. And I mean, I did look at
but they're shooting at the wall to see if they can get one charge out of all fucking whatever 80 to stay. It's funny how they all come out the same time in the year he's running for president. Oh, it's not a witch hunt. Give me a fucking break, dude.
Now
everybody can see what's going on. It's a matter of they see what's going on too. They know that this is a witch hunt. They're just okay with it because they hate Trump.
Now
Constitution be damned. Law and order be damned. Orange man is bad. Now
here's where I do get a bit miffed with the Republicans, and maybe this is just me, but I saw on X or Twitter or whatever we're calling it now, under trend, I saw a lot of crap trending again on Twitter under Republicans, and I just have to say, like, come on, guys. Like, honestly, here's what irritates me. If the Republicans had any stones, and had spent like 1/4 of the energy trying to indict Hillary that the Dems have spent trying to indict Trump, Hillary would probably actually be in jail.
She could have been fucking hung summarily if they
Yeah,
really wanted to, but they didn't, and that's fine. I don't even care about that. That's the thing. But the other side's going to do malicious prosecution. They've always done that. If you think Nixon was a
yeah,
bad guy, then you haven't heard the whole story. You know what I'm saying? This is not new for the Democratic Party. They've always been the party of fucking, oh, well, the law doesn't favor us in election time. Well, we need to change that.
yeah.
They used to do it with robes on and burning crosses on people's lawn. The law doesn't favor us because black people vote the other way because they freed the slaves. Oh, well, we
Yeah.
got to intimidate them out of voting. It's always been this way with the Democrats. They've always been dirty,
Yep.
and they're always going to
Absolutely.
be dirty.
Yeah.
But they
I
promise
mean,
poor people the world, and that's been their ticket ever since. LBJ had a famous quote that I won't say here on Rumble, but
I'll say it. In 50 years, I'll have all those N words voting Democrat.
yeah, except he didn't say N words. He used a hard R
Well, yeah. He used the hard R.
because that's what he
Um,
thinks of you. If you're black, a vote. You're a vote because they're gonna promise you free shit.
Well, in Joe Biden, this wasn't as extreme, but it's still
And that's
it's
why
it's still bad. But he did say if you vote for Romney, right? This was back in 2012. If you like Mitt Romney wants to put y'all back in chains or something like that, right? Now, I don't like Mitt Romney was the worst choice that we could
right,
have
but
had.
this kind of brings up a thing I really wanted to talk about because we only got to the first part last week was the Ice Cube interview where he was talking
Oh,
about
yeah.
exactly this. You know, he talked about Obama. It was the same as everybody else. Like he was happy that a black guy won. It was like a symbolic victory, but then nothing changed.
No,
Because the
and
Democrats in these inner city areas don't care. They really don't. It's
no,
all for fucking show.
and to me, I was talking to one of my black friends I went to college with, and he actually said that like within the last 10 years, he feels like race relations have gotten worse because that's all we talk about now.
Which is
In
exactly what
America
Ice Cube said in the second interview.
is race. Yeah.
Like the last question Tucker asked is he's like, we've been talking basically all day, and you haven't mentioned race once. You've talked about economic status, poor, rich, the wealthy, the haves and the have-nots, but you haven't brought up race at all. And Ice Cube was like, I actually don't think it's that important to the conversation. He's like,
Well,
they
yeah.
do it too much.
Well, yeah,
Everybody's
because
sick of it.
Well, yeah, because the economic disparity amongst people is far.
Yeah, middle class blacks is have a whole different experience in life, especially if they're raised that way. You know what I'm saying? They have
Right.
like because I live around a lot of them. Like
Yeah. No. So listen, I live in South Florida, which the Dems like to make jokes that Florida is the South, so therefore it's racist. But listen, there are lots of middle class black people. They don't give a second thought about race.
Well, and here's the thing, like the affirmative action thing. If you were a spunky kind of underdog, that maybe you weren't getting it, you could get into a college with worse grades than the white kid, right? And
Sure.
if you have drive, you could take advantage of that. And that's actually a lot of the middle class black people I've worked with professionally over the years. You know what I'm saying? Because if you work in the tech field, you work with a lot of them. And yeah, they did get their opportunity from fucking affirmative action in the first place. A lot of them will even tell you that. They know. They're like, I'm the fucking diversity. That back in the day, there was less diversity hires. So they would fucking say it, but they'd take, like, you got to respect the hustle at least. They didn't waste the opportunity.
Yeah, and they didn't complain about, you know, the opportunity either.
Right. Because the
But no,
opportunity doesn't come just because you're white. I know that's like the narrative, but like
but
I never got opportunity. I had to take everything I ever fucking earned.
but no, my black friend actually said something that was pretty funny, and so he said, "Well, now Biden is such a shitty president that now middle class white people know what it's like to be black and poor in a ghetto because
Ghetto America.
because the price of shit is too damn high."
And again, to go back to like like Ice Cube to me has been somebody I've been listening to his music for so long. I naturally quote him anyway. That's why it's so like, you know, when you're like somebody and then they turn out to be a really leftist douche. This is the opposite feeling. I was like, no, I stand by everything he said in that Tucker interview, actually, politically or otherwise. He didn't say anything I found controversial at all.
And it actually, like, his position,
and consider this an invitation to my gangsta nation was the punchline, because now we're living it. West Side Connection.
Well, and it
been a game, bing bing bang.
Well, and it actually made me think about something, which is conservatives have. This is what Shmuley was kind of saying before the show about how dumb conservatives can be, because like the song "Fuck the Police" isn't necessarily like about fuck the police per se. It's more about the system.
Well, yeah, they're not saying literally have sex with the police.
And
sometimes
and whatnot.
Depends on what the officer is wearing, you know.
That was actually the first draft. It was, but it didn't rhyme as well with anything.
Yeah.
Have sex with the police wasn't a very good rap song.
No. Well, if you're looking for wisdom in Ice Cube, I would always go to Pimp West Side Connection's classic "Pimp the System," because everything in that is true. That shit is true as fuck. You got to pimp the system for whatever you can take out of it, and stop being a bitch.
that song is like the song of Shmuley thought for a new century. Like if there's any song that would fit what I say in that, which would be great. It'll be up on the Substack when I get the Substack. Yeah.
Well, because if you ain't pimping the system, then use the hoe.
Yep.
Just so you know, ladies and gentlemen of our fine viewing audience, you don't want to be the hoe, because the system will pimp you real quick. Taxes, you know, you think that ain't fucking like a handout? Like, bitch, get me my money. You better get that money, you know, out there working it.
I mean, you have people like these conservatives that like pride themselves like, I'm not gonna take the PPP loan,
right?
I'm not gonna. I could qualify for food stamps. I won't do it because it's important for me not to take from this system so that it perpetuates itself.
Pro tip: you average consuming GOP member middle class person, you already get more back than you pay in taxes. So you're already like, it's impossible because the way the system is set up. You're already benefiting in ways that you don't even think of, in more dollar per value than you pay in taxes. This is true. But that's why we have a $28 trillion fucking deficit or whatever. Because they're spending more money than we have, and that's why you average consumer, and some of it's whether you like it or not. Like the war in Ukraine is you're paying for that, and that's part of the benefit that you get for your tax dollar. Motherfucker.
Yep. That's right. That's right.
You may not like the number, but that's the benefit, right? And you're getting way more than you're paying in. That's for sure.
No, but I mean, as our great friend,
and your kids are gonna love it.
our future guest on the show, Vivek Ramaswamy, would say, like, what is the underlying wisdom there? It's like, yeah, conservative guy, you got good instincts, right? You're trying not to take more from the pot so that there's more for the people that are who genuinely need it, because you have great instincts that allow us to build great civilizations and great society, and you would feel bad from taking from it. However, that makes no sense. Your intuition makes no sense given the current context.
Sure.
So pimp the system.
Right. Pimp the system.
If you're not taking advantage of every opportunity before you within reason, right? Within some fucking reason, you know what I mean? You're just allowing others to have a benefit over you. You're harming yourself. And not only are you harming yourself, you're harming your children or potential children who could benefit from those advantages that you're taking, those opportunities that you're taking. Now, obviously, the problem with welfare is really a problem of low-class people not investing in themselves and just living off of it because they can just live in that short-term time frame of the next check, which is kind of the problem with a lot of people inherently, you know?
I mean, but that's become a problem, crept all the way up to now the middle class and even the upper middle class, where it's
but they
they're
don't
living.
want to.
Yeah, no, nobody wants to. They're living check to check, though. That's what I'm saying. That's not just become welfare. That's become like the bottom 75% living check to check.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean. I mean that short-sightedness is something that a lot of these guys who are like, I would never take a check from the government, have, right?
Mm-hmm. Well,
they're actually longer. They have a longer time frame that they're working within. They're just been suppressed by the system into living check by check.
Well, and the reason I bring up the war is that's something your tax money's going to, and if you don't like it, well, something else your tax money's going to is food stamps. If you're taking back food stamps, right? Because times are fucking tough under Joe Biden. If you hadn't noticed at the grocery store, I've noticed, and I'm pretty sure everybody's noticed, but just in case you haven't, times get a little tough, and the upper middle class is even feeling that now. And all of a sudden, they can't get the fanciest fucking coffee every morning. And all of a sudden, you know what I'm saying? All of a sudden, things get a little expensive. The car note seems like a bit more than it should have cost this year, right? And fucking they have to cut back on their lattes and their fucking morning paper. And all of a sudden, they suddenly see it. And we're living in that world right now. For sure.
Yeah. No, we are.
The upper middle class is now being forced to live paycheck to paycheck like everybody else.
You know, and the ironic thing is a lot of those people that are now, you know, being forced to live paycheck to paycheck that weren't before, they were the ones that were bitching, oh, Trump's mean tweets.
Oh yeah.
And what?
Oh yeah, no, it cuts across such a wide swath of America, right? That it intersects all types of people, and the more that's what I'm talking about. I've always said the one thing you don't want to be is the extremist when the normies rise up. That's a bad idea, even if you're on the right. If you're the crazy guy when the normies are fucking pissed off at wit's end, standing out like a sore thumb, it's gonna end badly for you. Like a Nick Fuentes is a great example, right?
Yeah, I was just gonna say we've literally, and that's the other thing too is, you know, for all of this concern at, well, if Trump, you know, runs again, it'll be like, you know, Charlottesville 2.0. I mean,
I used to do a show based on a premise called the Maxian position. And the Maxian position was a joke made by Asa J, obviously as relates to like the Marxian position, people would say. He said the Maxian position is when, because I would make this case a lot, when the far right and the far left push the normies so far that the center wakes up, the center is going to squash both because they're sick of your bullshit. And all I'm saying is that's starting to happen. Nick
Totally.
Fuentes is getting mainstream attention, making fun of him on like both sides for having,
yeah.
pedophiles all throughout his organization or whatever.
Well,
Allegedly.
and that's what I was gonna say exactly. Is for all of this fear about neo Nazis like rising up or whatnot, they seem to do a pretty damn good job of like taking themselves out of the
Because it's
of the
always
equation.
it's always a honey trap. You can go back to I might have mentioned this before, the National Socialist movement in the 2000s. They completely imploded, and like the main guy wrote a book where he admitted to being a pedophile, and it was full of feds and operations and all this crazy crap. All this shit. Like if you see people saying weird shit like you should kill people, it's probably a trap, dog. It's probably a trap.
Yeah,
If
totally.
you feel that way, I get it. Like I get the frustration with the way things are, man. I try to be an optimist. That's I think what binds our show together. We do tend to have an optimistic outlook, even
Yeah,
if
I
it
mean,
comes from way different places. But I get being
well,
pessimistic. I get seeing things fall apart. I get all that. But if some dude tells you to join a group and the purpose of that group is to kill any group of specific people, it might be a fed.
well,
That's how you know. That's how you
well,
know.
well, and Max, that is something that I actually did kind of want to segue into directly because
In
you
some
know
way, shape, or form.
I
See, it might not be run by them, right? But there's gonna be one there. Is all I'm saying. And he's gonna be the
sure.
most extreme guy.
Well, to that point, I think one of the things that kind of separates this show from other shows is we're one of the
That
show.
Shmuley's on it.
Well,
Yeah.
obviously yes, that. But and Shmuley has actually been great about this. Uh, we're actually not black pilled on shit. Yeah, we can take a look around and say, yeah, shit's really bad right now. But we're not. I think we're one of the few podcasts out there on the right that is not like defeatist. The world is going to fucking end. So
Bro, I mean, I was pretty black pilled, but then I went and saw the Barbie movie, and like we live in a world where the Barbie movie exists. Like, how can you be black pilled on our state of affairs?
True. I have no idea
the
why.
Also,
I just want to, before you go off on your Barbie tangent, I just want to say this. I have absolutely no interest in seeing it. I don't care if it was woke or unwoke. It's the goddamn Barbie movie. Like, well, people gonna get that upset about a fight. Like, I see all these conservatives that were outraged and shit. And so I just want to get this out of the way because you have a good thing about this. And I have nothing to say because it's the Barbie movie and I'm a 40-year-old man.
all of them,
And I don't have daughters, right? So
all of them that complained probably didn't watch it to the end, or else they are so stupid that they hyper fixated, like with a pen and paper, like Ben Shapiro, all of the things in the movie that are, well, I don't like it because of this and that, where they missed that the movie basically fails to be woke. The main character is the Barbie without a career. So that is her premise. Now, she's evil in all of the toxic ways that that you see in the modern like feminist type women that are misguided and have failed relationships and have inflated egos and all of that stuff. But basically, the Kens are oppressed. They don't have homes. They don't have purposes. They don't have jobs. They exist at odds with each other, trying to seek the attention of the Barbies.
Right. They're the token boyfriend, and that's all they exist for.
Yes. He finds a portal to our world and goes through it because he's brave and awesome. And in it, a woman comes up to him and asks for the time. Now, to you or I, this is insignificant because in our world, men can have jobs and purposes. He's blown away. This woman was nice to him and he fulfilled a purpose. And then he finds out about jobs and horses and presidents and cowboys and jackets and Sylvester Stallone. He
Based.
goes back and tells the other kins about jobs and
So
purpose.
hold on. So my interpretation of what you just said is he learned how to be a man all of a sudden.
Yes.
Yes.
Based.
Then he goes back to the Barbie world and tells the other kins this. They become
shit.
immediately
It's gonna be a
excited.
revolution, dog.
Yes. Within the movie, within like 2 days, they basically take over. All of the
Nice.
Barbie houses become Kins Casa Blanca houses. I forget exactly what they called it. And they start forming relationships with all of the Barbies. And they're like strumming guitars on the beaches and spending time with them. And like they're happy. So they're forming families. They have jobs. They have purposes. Barbie comes back to the real world, or back to the Barbie world, and gets in a fight with him because he doesn't recognize her. So she decides, who does she decide to go to? Weird Barbie, who's clearly a stand-in for the unhappy sort of spinster third wave feminist.
Right.
Who tells her that they have to get rid of this. This is terrible, that these Barbies are brainwashed, and that this is oppression.
So
And
is this supposed to be like kind of the mystic guide from like the hero's journey kind of thing?
yeah, well, it's weird
Yeah.
Barbie.
Yeah.
She's flexible, and she's played that horrible woman from SNL, the really unfunny blonde one.
Oh,
That does I do weird faces.
Amy Poehler.
No, Amy Poehler would be much better.
Oh, Kate McKinnon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
And so she tells them basically to sow discord among the kins by basically cheating.
Oh, so she's gonna overthrow the new like male-oriented family structure.
And she does.
Oh no, Barbie!
And-
Why?
And then she struggles because she's now in that Barbie world like it was, and she's unhappy.
Right.
All the other Barbies, like I said, this is an important message. All the other Barbies have careers, but she doesn't. She's just Barbie. And so she doesn't have a purpose in her life, and she doesn't fit into this world. And so she leaves. She doesn't get with Ken. She leaves and gives up being Barbie for the real world. And I kid you not, she becomes a mother. And that's how the movie ends.
You're kidding, right?
I'm not kidding.
That last part can't be true.
I swear to God, I was fucking amazed at the end because, like I said, if you're watching this movie, you're seeing Ken's ups and downs, and you're like, this Barbie is terrible.
Right, and I've seen like one clip that was going around, and it looks like the guy put his all into being Ken, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, Ryan Gosling played him. A funny thing too is that there's a scene where like real Barbie or Barbie goes to real world, and the point was like the men would gawk at them and stare at them and whatnot,
right?
And show like the oppression they faced. But in the actual shooting of that, where they were like in L.A., like no one paid her any attention.
I bet.
But everyone was running up to Ryan Gosling as Ken and like high-fiving him, and like women were looking at him and shit because he's got his six-pack out and shit.
He's been like the sexiest man alive multiple times, right? Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I just found that funny because it was like, oh my God, no one catcalled her.
I did mention before we went on air, like I know that Amy Schumer rejected the Barbie movie because she said it wasn't woke enough.
Yeah,
she thought it was too right wing, so maybe that's what she was talking about.
I think that she got it. The thing about the movie is I don't think it was intentionally set up to be this way. I actually think that it was written by like a TERF, and I think that the
and TERFs are our allies in the current year because that's where we're at.
Well, I mean, Max, you were talking.
No, I
about-
love TERFs. I got a whole bunch of TERFs on Twitter now, and they post some of the funniest shit you'll ever see.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
I just think that it was inadvertently made based, and I just want to say that I'm a conservative. Okay.
Well-
Damn, bro.
damn, we should actually put that on a fucking t-shirt, bro. That would be
You're gonna get sued by Mattel or some shit.
Base.
no.
No, we'd
but-
have to make the logo Mantel.
That is
Yeah.
so worth it, though. Hold on. I have to bring this up just on the off chance it might actually work.
That would be pretty funny though. No, the thing with is there's actually a
Oh,
I
I
think-
just want to.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off, but I just want to say, do not have your children see that movie. It is not at all even attempting to be appropriate for them.
yeah. Well, no, I
Oh,
figured
that's why it did well at the box office, though. Is all the kids seeing it? Great.
Yeah, well, they like repeatedly use curse words, and a lot of the jokes are sexual. And like I said, I can kind of like see this movie and be like, oh damn, I understand the overarching story, but like the way that gender is put across through most of the movie is basically that there's like a battle between men and women that's inherent, and that like you see them treating each other poorly, basically. I wouldn't recommend that. Like, if you have a child, they might get bad. They might mimic bad ideas that they saw there because it's Barbie.
Right, and it's trying to present toxic ideas, and kids mimic them. Gotcha.
Yeah.
so.
It's tough with kids' entertainment these days, but at least I get the pass of skipping Barbie because my boy is not into that. You know what he's into? I just set him up today, and he's like upstairs right now. He even came in a second ago. I had to cut out because he wanted some water, but like he's playing what is it? The Sea of Thieves, the pirate game on Xbox.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's like his new. He's super high. He's going "Arr! Yo!" and playing the game, having a good time.
Yeah.
Pirates are cool, right?
They
Yeah, well,
also, I didn't mention it because it wasn't really important because Barbie's not really important in that movie. Barbie becomes upset when she comes to the real world because the teenage girls call her like fascist and upholding like oppression and shit.
Based. That is exactly what you'd expect out of teenage girls, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
No,
Which there was a study done, I think it was YouGov, I'd have to bring it up, that I read, that basically showed that it was done among 12th graders, and it showed that about 30% of 12th graders now identify as conservative, which is the highest since Carter.
based.
But like it was sorry, I won't even say it because I'd have to look at the data again. I might have confused that, but basically that more young men are identifying as conservative and more young women are identifying as liberal.
Yeah. Well,
Than
that
in the
makes
past.
sense.
Well,
But
yeah.
I think the degree to which women are these high school girls and young women or whatever, I don't really know what to call them because 12th grade, that's like a weird cutoff. They're like kids to me, but whatever. What was I saying? I think that a lot of that has to do with like Roe v. Wade. Like they probably have like one issue basically, and then they're like, oh,
Sure.
well, I'm this thing because of that one issue.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's be honest. I think a lot of the high school boys are conservative because they see that the left basically is demonizing all men, right? So,
Okay.
and
I
so,
think
like,
and the natural rebelliousness against the system, and the system is full of cat ladies pushing that shit.
yeah.
The natural male, like, aggressive instinct is to push back against the cat ladies in charge, and right now the cat ladies are preaching that shit. So it's not cool. It's like annoying, and of course that's what even makes them naturally conservative, if anything.
Yeah. Which, you know, I'm actually glad that gives me hope. So
Well, it's why my generation specifically was like naturally liberal, because the conservative institutions were being like dumb and censoring things and starting wars and shit.
yeah.
And so, you know, I was kind of like a little bit more above it than that. I don't just fall for propaganda, but I could see the people around me. They're just like, yeah, conservative bad, and they're gonna think that forever.
Right, yeah. Now the left is doing the same thing, pretty much.
Worse. At least we had money. At least we had goddamn money.
Yeah. Well, speaking of,
We might not have had Dungeons and Dragons and heavy metal, but we had money.
you
But
know,
under Trump, this is the beauty of it all. Under Trump, I had all of it. Dungeons
yeah,
and Dragons, heavy metal, money, opportunity, and Biden stole it away.
yeah. No, and now, well, I don't know how reliable this is because I'm looking at the link right now that Maya sent me, and I thought it was a good link until I saw that it comes from Timcast. Something us, and no, I appreciate Maya sending stuff to contribute to the show, but it's Tim Pool, and it's a little sus to put it mildly, but he's talking. There's the prospect of Biden forming a draft for us to go into Ukraine. Here's the thing about that. The reason why I'm bringing it up is Biden is the one guy who I think would start a draft.
Oh, dude. So you're telling me that we're going to send a bunch of young American males that don't have like purpose or guidance and have been ran by a bunch of cat ladies to an ultranationalist country fighting for their independence so that they can serve with ultranationalist brigades in order to defeat the Russians. And then they're going to come back to the United States having been exposed to ultranationalist right-wing ideas and having the means to wage a war that they didn't want to wage in the first place, being sent by an oligarchy. I'm sure that'll work really well. I see no problem for the regime with that. Go ahead.
That's an interesting way of looking at it, Shmuly.
It's a great idea, right?
I had not to quote the Big Lebowski's assistant Ed. I had not considered that, dude.
I mean, it's just funny. Like, no, quite literally, there's always been this kind of thing where like the Ukraine was not convenient for them.
Yeah.
Like the idea that we share an ideology with those people is kind of absurd. I mean, they're not as like foreign as the Taliban or something, but like they're definitely not. They definitely don't have a lot in common with our Silicon Valley overlords. Okay,
Right.
these are like village people. Like, these are like Eastern European turnip farmers and shit.
I think the big kind of thing why people are so against us going into Ukraine, at least that I've seen, is they don't want it turning into another Vietnam, which is kind of what the fear is.
Yeah,
Right?
look. I mean, I jest, right, about how it would be a bad idea for them. However, like, no, I just don't want any Americans dying in an ethnic conflict in Europe.
Right.
I mean, I look at World War I and I'm like, Americans were sent to die so that like the British and French could defeat those Germans because those Germans were so bad. They were the evil Hun and all. It's like, no, everyone who died in that war that was an American died for nothing. It was totally unnecessary. And that's basically the scenario that I fear. Like, I don't really think that an American should die for Ukraine unless they want to like go join the Ukrainian army.
Right. Yeah.
Now, some method of arming them might be good, but like the fact of the matter is I have a lot of concerns with how we've armed them.
Yeah.
And
Well,
yeah,
that's what I was going to say too. Is we've been arming them for like a couple of years now. So
I would feel much more comfortable with arming them if we made new artillery shells and sent them to them. If we made new armored personnel carriers and sent them to them. Now, people say, oh, well, we'll just replenish our stocks once we give up our surplus to them. But I don't think that that's the case, especially with production. I mean, we had the president of the United States say we're running out of shells. Now, presumably, we can buy these artillery shells from South Korea, but here's the thing. They're buying them from South Korea. Ukraine's buying them from South Korea. South Korea has a huge stockpile. They're not going to run out, but they need that stockpile because of North Korea.
Well, the other fear too is that like Russia is going to ally with China. I mean, they already have, but that China is going to get more involved in this, and that's going to cause big problems for us.
Well, it's kind of amusing because the Russian Shoigu, the head of the Ministry of Defense, went to North Korea and they did a parade and showed off their weapons and stuff. And so we have an instance now where South Korea is selling weapons to Ukraine and North Korea is selling weapons to Russia. I just find that amusing.
Yeah.
This little both sides are selling weapons and making money off of the war.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the way wars usually go.
But from what I've heard, I mean, I just think that we could support them in a much more efficient manner if we went outside of the contract. I mean, we have arms manufacturers, ammo manufacturers that would be perfectly capable of producing rifles for every single Ukrainian. Now, you might ask why you would want to do that. Well, because right now they use the AK-74 as their primary weapon. That's a 5.45 round. NATO does not use that. America does not have the capacity to produce that on large scale. We have more than enough capacity to produce 5.56. There's thousands upon thousands of people. People have that shit in their garage.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, by the way,
we could arm them for $400. I just want to say we could give rifles for $400 a piece to the Ukrainians, produce jobs for Americans here, American manufacturing. Not even the defense contractors, but smaller firms could do this.
Right.
And then we could sell the ammo to them. And this would help our local production. But the Biden administration wouldn't do that because they don't believe in the Second Amendment. And they want their pork bill spending and their corrupt oligarchs and the defense contractors to make money. Of course, if we're going to send them javelins and shit, they're going to get their money. But my point is that it's been poorly run, even if you think that it should. And I find this to be a problem. Even though, like I said, I don't really have much of a problem with arming them. I do think, however, that it's perfectly legitimate for citizens to say there's homeless vets, there's all these other issues, there's the southern border. What are we doing about those things? But I think that it's a cop-out. I think personally that they could secure the border and give some amount of assistance to Ukraine. But I don't like that Zelensky's daughter is chilling out in a $400 million mansion.
Yeah, no, during wartime. Yeah, that just
Explain
seems.
that to me. You
Well,
know?
I don't like the fact that Zelensky has become such a celebrity over here in the U.S. I mean, why is
Yeah.
why
I
is he
go ahead.
why is he flavor of the week, right?
Hmm. Well, I think he's a great leader in that he's gotten supplies for his country, right?
Sure, I'm not disagreeing with that, but it's like
Yeah. But from our
he's
perspective,
I mean they're treating him like they're almost treating him like Obama in a way, in the sense that like they're glorifying him a bit excessively, and it's like, okay, yes, he's a great leader, but you know, he's not even our,
I
guy.
wish we had Kurt back on here. I love hearing Kurt talk about it. He lived there for years, had businesses there, um, really loved the place.
Yeah.
So I love his perspective on it. But no, I
Then
think that from our perspective, it's perfectly legitimate to say this country is incredibly corrupt because in America, we kind of shifted a lot of our corruption up to the top. Most like day-to-day citizens are not going to have to pay bribes to the mob or pay bribes to the cops. Like that's not, at least in the vast majority of America, that's not really the case. The corruption
right.
is in Congress and in the Senate among massive pharmaceutical companies. You know what I mean? It's way out of reach for the average person's life, and that's not the case in the Ukraine.
Yeah. Right. So Morpheus actually found that chart of 12th grade boys that you were talking about
Okay, cool.
Earlier, Shmuley. So yeah, let me see if I can. So yeah, there's that
What is that, 23, 24%?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, see that's very high. Like my understanding is it was since like the Carter administration it's been.
Yeah. What's also interesting, though, in regards to this survey is notice that this is from the University of Michigan, which,
Mhm.
let's face it, you know, the University of Michigan isn't exactly well, Michigan itself isn't necessarily a conservative hotbed.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to conclude this data. What you'd want to do is look at like Gen Z voting and try to isolate it because I wonder if in this, those who don't identify as one or the other lean to the right or to the left. From what I've seen, at least as of right now, independents and moderates, people who identify as one or the other of those or both, are leaning right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you see things like how many people voted for Trump in 2024. Obviously, the Democrats had a better ground game, but yeah,
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting. So thanks to Mort for sending that our way. Also, um, Tucker Carlson dropped another video. He dropped an interview with Devin Archer, who I guess is one of Hunter Biden's, or was one of Hunter Biden's business partners. I've not seen it yet. Is this something that we want to commentate on, or?
well, my opinion is that they need to indict Trump because he's obviously the big guy in the Hunter Biden email. You know, why not? I mean, if you're going
Yeah,
to charge him with 500 years worth of crime, just stack it. I
yeah.
mean, he had documents, but he also moved the documents. Those are two different charges, okay?
Well, if we're gonna if we're gonna,
They're treating him like they would treat you. They're treating him like they would treat a normal Joe that finds himself being targeted by the law or a prosecutor. They do this every single day to railroad people, and the fact that they're doing it to a billionaire just shows something. It shows something. It shows how scared they are.
Yeah. Well, they're throwing proverbial shit at the wall with Trump and hoping that something sticks, right? Like, they're basically throwing all of the darts at the wall at this point. And again, I mean, indictments don't mean arrest necessarily. So.
Yeah. But, I mean, my point is that this is exactly what they do. They throw everything at somebody. And, like, you know, you would think that one charge would be something, but they find a way to make it 30 charges.
Yeah.
You jaywalked, Sam, but you also didn't look both ways. And when you jaywalked, you unauthorized entry in front of a car, but you also disturbed traffic. And you also, okay, so your jaywalking charge is 50 years in prison. You know, if you were found guilty on all these charges.
Well, no, I think with like one of the New York charges that Trump is facing, like one of them is like that he supposedly like ripped a tag on like a mattress or something, and that's like illegal, in the state of New York or something. I don't know. Some of them are just absolutely outrageous. But meanwhile, we got Hunter Biden out here selling crack to everyone. But oh no, let's ignore that. So it's fascinating. So I have not seen this. I do kind of want to, I guess react to it. Max, are you still here?
No. He passed away. Rest in peace.
Well, at least he got to spend out his last moments with the two people he loved the most.
I mean, this is debatable, okay?
Well,
who did he love more? Obviously, me.
Well, yeah. Well, yes.
But
you've known him for way longer. Like I'm not denying that at all.
Well, it's just that, he always admired me. My wit, my humor.
Yes. No, he did. He always told me.
He was my friend. And his passing is going to be difficult. And it's going to be hard. Like, how are we going to do the show? It's just going to be you and I? It's absurd. There's going to be dead air, Sam. There's going to be dead air, dude.
No, there will never be dead.
There's going to be dead air because he's dead.
It'll just be his it'll just be his avatar.
I'm hyperventilating, Sam. We can't do this on our own.
I'd give you a virtual Kleenex I'd give you a Kleenex if I could.
Don't be perverted. Now is not the time to be perverted, Sam. Get your mind out of the gutter.
What's it? I didn't mean Kleenex like in that way.
What other way is there for a Kleenex? What else are you going to do with a Kleenex, Sam? I don't have a Kleenex. I have a sock. It's right here.
Well, now you're the pervert, sir. Yeah, but like, Well, as far as sick things to do with Kleenexes, let's ask the expert on this type of thing, Hunter Biden, or more specifically, his former partner Devin Archer. Let me test this out real quick.
Holy shit!
End of the
you have
day,
all
he
these notifications and messages. You're a popular man, Sam.
I am. Can you hear the audio real quick?
Yes,
he had a
can.
career in Washington.
Okay. So let me all right. We'll pause for commentary.
So you worked with Hunter Biden in a bunch of different businesses. What were the specific skills that he brought to clients?
Well, at the end of the day, he had a career in Washington.
Yeah.
Graduated Yale Law School and had a very big network in D.C. and brought that know-how and understanding of D.C. and ultimately the Biden brand.
The know-how. So as far as I could tell, he wasn't doing legal work. I mean, he wasn't in the counsel's office at Burisma, right?
No.
So the network and the Biden brand sounds like the kind of key component of
Absolutely,
what
yeah.
he was bringing.
Yep.
Do you think that he would have been in those businesses, not having a business background, without his father being in a government position?
It's hard to speculate in those regards. I mean,
Yeah.
I think when we initially met and he talked about his advisory business, his business that needed to transition from lobbying to advisory and the interest in private equity, it seemed like a new and interesting network for us to expand our business. Whether he could have, been in that position, it's hard for me to speculate. But
Right.
obviously, the brand of Biden, adds a lot of power when your dad's the vice president.
For sure. And there was a time, maybe 10 years ago, when private equity, maybe like AI now, was just one of those terms people were throwing out. I'm in private equity.
Right.
But the mechanics, having done it, coming
Right.
from a business background yourself, are kind of complex. Are they not?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's a complex business. Takes years of training, but again, the initial idea around the business that they were going to provide, the government insight and an additional network to raise capital and then, deal with regulatory issues that you might have at the corporate level.
Right. Regulatory issues.
Exactly.
Okay, so that would be more his area.
Right. That would be his space.
Right. But did he have a sophisticated understanding of regulation, do you think?
I think that he led a team that had a sophisticated.
Okay, because I lived in Washington a long time, around a lot of regulation. Also, a very complex area.
Absolutely. I think you got to be an expert in knowing the guy, and he was the guy that was the expert in knowing the guy.
He was an expert in knowing the guy.
Right.
And who was the guy he knew?
Well, he knew a lot of people, but obviously there was some familiar, his brother, his father, some of his father's siblings. So he knew a lot of people. And obviously I know you're pointing to, the father being the key relationship.
No, I'm just trying to get a sense of, like, Washington's not a money town.
Right.
People aren't in business in Washington for the most part, and most people don't have business skills
That is a key point there, that like DC is not a money town. It's all about power and who you know in DC. That's like the real currency. It's all like New York City is definitely money based, right? But DC definitely is more of like a who you know type of place.
Yeah, and that's why it produces a bunch of like degenerate ruling classes that aren't tied to anything tangible and don't understand things other than to grift and lie and virtue signal and stab each other in the back.
Right.
Whereas, and this is what's so crucial, I think, to Tucker as well in his critique of sort of the managerial elite, our current elite, at least in his book, Ship of Fools. There's a lot of overlap between mine and his views. However, I think that we will be able, especially now that things are kind of accelerating, we'll be able to have a new group of elites gain status and power outside of the system and then seek to replace it. Because if you remember, the current sort of technocrats The idea that like college professors would be calling the shots over politicians, that was a new concept around 1910. It was the progressive movement that implemented that, culminating in the New Deal and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Prior to that, things were done in a much more corrupt way. It was like, I want to build a skyscraper. I pay off the mob so that the union will actually build it. And then I pay off the politicians. And then we build the Empire State Building in 7 months.
Right. But also, and here's the thing, is the mob actually did have like legit business, interest too. Granted,
I'm just saying, like, everything was done like that. Politicians actually held power, and people with money would give them money in exchange for the okay to do things. Whereas now everything is really bureaucratic.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a million
completely.
managers behind that. And, well, the politician will tell you, well, you got to get approval by this and that. That system was implemented by the progressives specifically to take away the power of these politicians, to get rid of that system. My point is that those same type of elites, these kind of people that live in Washington or are part of the managerial elite that have all of these positions, could themselves be displaced.
Oh, yeah, completely.
By military elite or a business world elite.
Yeah.
Yeah, go. Sorry, I might have derailed it, but I think that it's interesting when I listen to Tucker speak and make these points, I put it in the larger context of his book, which I would encourage people to read. Actually.
Oh yeah, Ship of Fools is excellent. I mean, and I have the audiobook version, and so I mean I actually hear him talking about it directly, and yeah, everything he says is completely spot on in that book. And refers to a lot of what you're saying. So, but yeah.
I noticed in 30 years of living there. So really the business of Washington is selling access. That's what it looked like to me.
Yes.
Not just Hunter Biden, but like.
Yeah, no,
I think
that's one of the like core misconceptions. I mean, it seems like when understanding a regulatory environment means selling access at the end of the day. That's how I interpret it. And I think that's how most people on Wall Street, whether they admit it or not, interpret it.
Yeah. So we've got a complex business that intersects with government. We need a guy who knows it.
Right. How do I, deal with getting a guy a visa that needs to come over for a business deal? Right. Call our lobbyist that knows the guy in DHS or used to work in DHS or, in Customs and Border Patrol or the people at the embassy and state. They might be able to help. So there are very tactical elements that are regulatory and compliance and governance that you have to go through, and you got to know the guy that worked at the old agency that now has the lobbying firm that can go back to the agency and get things put to the front of the line.
So the reason I'm asking this is because it's not to give the Bidens a pass, hardly, but when people say, well, there's some question about whether Hunter was trading on his father's name, if you live in Washington, that's the whole city right there.
Right. I think you know the answer to that. At the end of the day,
so
he had the best advantage to do that because of where he was. And, we thought that when we went into business, this was a great opportunity for us.
So I get it. And you're not the only one who did that.
Right. There were a lot of
Hunter
businesses.
Biden's not the only son of a famous government official who's done this, right? At all. But I just wonder, when you hear people say, well, it's kind of an open question.
Right.
About why they hired Hunter Biden, that's pretty disingenuous, no?
Right. I think at the end of it, so when you look at there are people that maybe were, sons or relatives or brother-in-laws of other high-ranking officials, but I think what we ran into and with what Hunter ran into was almost like an Icarus issue. So he got it was too close to the sun. It was too good to be true, and the connections were too close and the scrutiny too much.
Yes.
And it ended up destroying, it left a wake of a lot of destruction in business over a number of years.
So how many, it's been reported and you have said that there were occasions when Joe Biden would call in with clients present on a speakerphone.
Right.
How many times do you think that happened?
I mean, over a 10-year partnership, I would, the number I'm going with is 20. That's probably the amount that I kind of record. Yeah, a lot, you could say.
So Joe Biden, who's very much a product of Washington, of course must have known that he was calling in to effectively a business meeting that his son was having. I mean, he must have understood that was kind of what his son was selling.
Well, that's hard for me to speculate on that.
But like, I guess my question, just to keep it to the facts, Joe Biden, then the sitting vice president, knew that there were Hunter's business associates in the room.
Yeah, I think I can definitively say at particular dinners or meetings, he knew there were business associates, and he, or if I was there, I was a business associate too. So I think, or if, any of the other colleagues from the DC office or the New York office were there. So yeah, at times there were. From the, to be, completely clear on the calls, I don't know if it was an orchestrated call in or not. It certainly was powerful though, because, if you're sitting with a foreign business person and you hear the vice president's voice, that's prize enough. I mean, that's pretty impactful stuff for anyone in the world.
Yeah, I mean, again, going back to what Shmuel and I were saying earlier, it's the access to power, right? That's the commodity in DC. And even if Joe Biden just like stumbled upon those calls on accident, quote unquote, that would have still been like a major pull for several of those business.
If it wasn't for the big guy thing, I could believe that Joe Biden, being the guy he is, would get a sense, my son's doing something corrupt, I'm not going to pry. Then I have my plausible deniability. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He can do what he's doing. But I do think that there's a possibility that he was involved, a good possibility, and that there's questions involved in that. And it's very plausible that nothing technically illegal happened, but that's the kind of thing that you would expect with this kind of situation. If you're him, it would kind of behoove you, if you're not getting any money, if you're not getting a cut of it, to not ask too many questions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't ask, don't tell kind of a thing. And look, it's also possible that on those emails that look sketchy that he was full of shit and just trying to get more money. Hey, I need 10% more for the big guy. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is the kind of thing that I'd like to know.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to know how many of these business ventures were then, used as like campaign finance for, Biden's presidential run the first go round.
Yeah. I mean, these are all good questions. And like I said, I'm trying to be as objective and fair as possible based on what I've seen. It's entirely plausible that if there was like a proper, trial or whatever, I'd find out, hey, actually Joe wasn't involved,
Yeah. No, I mean,
at least not in a way that would be, criminal or directly.
I mean, I think at the very least we deserve an investigation in regards to that. So
look, I mean, how many times did they investigate Trump with the impeachments and this and that, and then every time it's like, oh, okay, he didn't do it. Okay, wow.
Well, and that's what we're getting at, these days now too. Is
look, every little thing that they accuse Trump of, they got a fucking whole ass hearing. They got whole ass investigations, right? So why can't we have an investigation to see if he was directly involved in this kind of stuff? Like I said, and I'll reiterate it, it's entirely possible that Joe, sensing his son was corrupt, decided, I'm not going to pry in this. I'm not going to ask too many questions. And Hunter in these emails, there's like, I need 10% more for the big guy. And it's a tactic to get more money.
Yeah.
But that's still scummy.
Yeah. We need an investigation. Every single time people had concerns about Trump, time and time again, there was an investigation. Time and time again, there was a hearing. He got impeached over shit. Oh, over a phone. Let's remember the phone call.
The perfect phone call.
The perfect phone call where he said, "Hey, we need to look into this Burisma stuff."
Right.
Oh, what a bad guy! Wow, he's vindicated again. Who would have thought?
Yep.
My apologies, gentlemen. I just ran a couple miles to get a drink for my boy.
I cried because you were dead.
I'm sorry.
And because you were dead,
Yeah,
I was telling Sam, how can we do the show? He's dead, and so there's going to be dead air.
Based.
Shmuel gave like a legit heartfelt eulogy for you, and this time the stream didn't get cut. So
no, I was running to go to the store before they closed because he's coming in here asking me. All I drink is water. If he's asking me for water, I'm like, "You got anything to drink?" And he's like, "No." And I was like, "Oh well, they'll understand." I'm sweating, legitimately. I'm like,
dad life, folks. That's something that a lot of people who are chronically online will never understand.
Well, and I got my make your own iced coffee while I was there for the trip.
Oh, based, very based. Yeah,
and they gave it to me for free because I go close to closing time all the time, so they just give me free coffee because they're gonna throw it away anyway. Pro tip.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. So, yeah. But anyway, yeah, we've I just saw that this new Tucker interview with one of Biden's former partners dropped. So, yeah.
Oh my god! I haven't even looked that close because it's just like shit we all know. But the motherfuckers are all corrupt to the core, and the Justice Department, who's led by Biden, doesn't want to do anything about it.
Yeah, no, but I mean, at least it's out there for the normies to see now, and
Oh sure, yeah.
The white pill I'm kind of taking from this is that like that'll influence people to not vote for Biden next time.
You want a white pill? Normies are now interacting with Michael Malice content.
Yes,
via Roseanne.
Yes, that is a huge white pill.
That's insane. Welcome to the the clownier version of Clown World. And it's because, like I say, it's because they cancel these people that kind of had normie views in Hollywood. A lot of Gen Xers, if you'll notice, among a pattern among them, the Gen Xers who don't fit in with the rest of them seem to just get weeded out, right? And it's usually on some shit like a vaccine. Besides Ice Cube, Snoop Dogg came out against the vaccine too. Whatever you think about the vaccine, it's interesting that they have that opinion, right?
Yeah, I saw that. So,
well, he yelled. He was yelling at the servers of EA being down and saying, "Bill Gates, instead of pushing these bullshit vaccines on a motherfucker, get your servers up." And he's right. By the way, I support Snoop Dogg's message in that video wholeheartedly. Sometimes that's me. Get your server up, motherfucker. Stop pushing transgenders in my face and get your server up.
Based. Yeah.
Been reported, and I know that it is true, that the Hunter and his brother were very close to their dad.
Absolutely.
Which I think is great.
Yep.
I've got a lot of kids. I'm very close to them, talk to them every day.
Yeah.
Never called them on speaker during a business meeting. That's weird. You've got a lot of kids. You're close to them. Do you call them on speaker during business meetings?
Do I call?
I mean, what is that? A grown man calling his dad on a speakerphone during a business meeting?
Right. And to be clear, sometimes the call was coming in and the speaker would go on. So it's just the presence. You have to be. I mean, you understand DC,
it's
right?
Because it's the big guy.
The power to have that.
Yep. Bingo. It is the big guy. Yeah.
You take the call when the big guy calls.
No,
even if
no,
you're in the
no.
most important meeting there is.
We all know that the big guy's Donald Trump. Just add that to the 550-year charges. You know what I mean? Might as well.
Well, I've heard an anonymous report that the big guy was orange.
That would be the best timeline, is if Hunter Biden was actually corrupt with Donald Trump somehow.
I don't know about best timeline, but it'd be pretty
It would
funny.
be funny. It would be the funniest timeline. They're just fucking. I mean, it would throw a kink in the system.
And the twist is that Don Jr.'s working for Biden.
Yeah.
We should pitch this as a film, and it's like spy versus spy kind of shit, except they're both like kind of dumb and stumble into everything.
Well, I
like Don Jr., but like sometimes he's kind of tone deaf.
I'm working on a ChatGPT novel like Sam's. It's a short story where Commander Cobra, because it won't write about Trump, wants to win in 2024, and so he has a group of podcasters to spread misinformation about the climate change lasers from the sun. And so Biden and Obama form a diverse team of TikTok influencers to counter his podcaster misinformation.
See, Hollywood, you could solve the strike. We could scab. I'll write you some films, okay? And they'll be good. Like, people will like them because one, they're gonna have explosions, right? Two, they're gonna have titties, right? At least some of them. Three, they're gonna have like what else is cool? Car chases,
montages.
Oh my god, overcoming adversity. Yup, a love interest that's a woman, and
great.
A male protagonist.
What?
Yeah, it'll be great. You'll make so much money, Hollywood. I promise. And you can keep the AI, because I don't mind that. I think that's a stupid ask on the part of the union anyway. Am I the only one that's wrong?
I think you're right.
What are they asking to like get rid of AI now, or what?
For writing, directing, acting, everything, computer animation, all of it. You can't use AI for anything. That's one of their key demands.
Well, that's dumb.
And they want the AI to stop using people's work without their consent or whatever.
Yeah, that's not how it works. Like,
yeah, but these are literally the writers and actors and shit of Hollywood. We're not talking about normal, sane people who think normal, right?
Right. Well, but what I'm saying
is...
it
started with the writers, because the writers are the easiest to replace with AI, and they know it because their jokes are terrible. Like, all the shit they're writing is terrible. You find, and you guys watch a lot more media than me, so maybe I'm skeptical, but you find like one or two good things every couple of years that's actually well done and well written, well acted, and worth your time. And even sometimes it does have a political message, but I can admit that it's good, right? But that's fewer and fewer in between.
Max,
and most of it looks like it's written by like a 12-year-old who's like obsessed with politics, because it's written by radicals.
Max, you haven't missed a whole lot.
I know. You know what I haven't seen? You know what I haven't seen? I haven't seen one single Star Wars movie or TV show or anything that wasn't made under Lucasfilm.
Well, shit, you really haven't missed anything.
Not the first one, none of them, not the spin-offs, none of it. The only thing I have done is I went back and played the game, the Old Republic MMO, because the story in that game is pretty good. And but the combat sucks and it was boring, so I quit. But that takes place before that too, and they said that that's not canon, so I think that's acceptable. But yeah, I haven't interacted with any of the new Star Wars media at all because I knew it was going to be shit from the beginning.
Yeah, basically, like all of the good Star Wars stuff is like non-woke, and by non-woke I mean it's just like Star Wars. It's not like trying to preach like
it's just neutral.
Yeah, it's just neutral. all of the stuff that like we grew up with in the 90s and early 2000s that was like good with Star Wars, all of that is non-canon now. And you know what? I don't,
except for the actual like 6 films. Everything
right.
else was non-canon. The novels, because like people knew where the story went after that. They just wanted the movies to be made from the original novels, because obviously the original Star Wars was episode 4. They had written more than one novel by that point, right?
Right, yeah.
So yeah, it ended with like a whole different thing than what they've done, as far as I can tell. And part of that was because by the time they made them, all the actors were too old to do it that way.
See, here's the thing though with
And
the AI.
that is partly George Lucas's fault, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's definitely true. He should have done the sequel trilogy that he wanted to in the 90s
instead of the prequel trilogy, because the prequel trilogy turned off a lot of the hardcore Star Wars fans because it was weird.
Yeah. It's not, I mean, in hindsight, it's not horrible.
He picked up a lot of young people, right? But the older people that grew up with the original trilogy fucking hate it.
Well, and in the CGI has not like, it's not horrible, but you can definitely tell like it's like mid 2000s.
Misa loved the CGI.
Oh God, the one thing I do love about Jar Jar Binks is that like supposedly that's supposed to be like a racist like character of like a Rastafarian.
Yeah, I agree, but he's a Sith Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes.
So is my character in the Old Republic. I was a Sith warrior, which is like the Darth Vader-y class. And I decided very early on that I was just going to murder everybody who didn't do exactly what I said. And I followed that strategy pretty much faithfully through, and was just like a genocidal maniac pretty early on. It's a fun experience, actually.
But no, going back to these idiot writers complaining about ChatGPT, I don't think they understand that like that you still have to have some creativity in order for ChatGPT and other bots to work properly.
Well,
otherwise,
to be fair to them, to kind of steelman the other side of this, is they are looking at a longer term when they're talking about it, particularly in the media field. Like, to be fair, because I've worked with people from SAG-AFTRA before and everything, they're not the worst. Like, of all the unions, the lefty unions, the teachers union is way worse than the fucking actors. The actors, it's just celebrities, so they're fucking pretentious by nature, right? But if you can get past that, what their point is that, especially the writers, is that the long-term implication of this is that humans will eventually be taken out of the algorithm entirely, because it's taking their jokes and learning from it and building upon them, and eventually will be better than them. And that's what they're concerned about.
Sure.
So I don't want to just completely dismiss it as like, simple. Because like right now, no, you're right. You do need a human input to make it work. But what they're saying is, how long is that the case for?
Yeah.
Because this technology basically just came out available to the public, as far as most of the public is aware. Obviously, we know that's not true, because we were even talking to Kurt Doolittle about this, where they had these kind of algorithms in the 80s, but they just didn't have the computing power. But
yeah,
to most people, this came out of like left field, like last week. You know what I mean?
A lot of the people have kind of been a lot of people who have listened to the Kurt Doolittle interview on this have kind of been shocked, because Kurt's thing was basically, to paraphrase, is that ChatGPT is rather unremarkable in his words. But then I always have to remind people that's coming from a 40-year veteran of the industry.
Right. Too. Yeah, he was, like he said, he was working with AI stuff that could do the same thing.
Yeah.
Many years before this is available. And like me, like I said, I've been into computer science my whole life. It's a passion, right? So about these things, but like the normal people, they don't understand what ChatGPT is really doing. It seems too smart to be just a normal computer like they've used their whole life, like they have a smartphone attached to their hip. It feels like a huge jump in technology to the average baseline consumer, and a lot of them are scared about it.
Yeah. Well,
And that's fair.
Well, my point being though, like, is did ChatGPT help me write this book, Shadows of Deception, that you totally should buy on Amazon? Did ChatGPT help me? Sure. But did it write the whole thing? No.
But what if what if this is what they're kind of talking about, to give a perfect example? What if after you write 2 or 3 of these, ChatGPT's like, you know what? I can just write another one and I'm gonna publish it. Because that's what they're talking about.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't need your input anymore. I understand the style that you write in, so I can just emulate it. So I'm just gonna write another one. I'm gonna use your main character because I helped write it. That's part of the problem. They're talking about like the Creative Commons style licensing.
Right.
Can run into a problem in terms of DMCA and copyright claim. And that's because the DMCA was written around the millennium by a bunch of boomers then who didn't even understand the internet, let alone what it would become. And so the DMCA is way outdated to handle a lot of this shit. But we are where we are. And so you could run into this problem. And so I don't want to downplay the SAG-AFTRA's side on AI. It's actually that's their most well thought out position. Although I think they're taking a fairly extreme stance on it, that the movie studio can't possibly accept those terms.
Yeah.
Not that one. Any other term, whatever. I don't care if they have to pay out a lot of money. If the big rich movie studio have to pay the actors and the key groups more money, I'm not going to cry for any of them, right? And I'm not crying for any of these people for being out of work either. Because it's a strike. You choose to be out of work.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And I'd be happy to skid, like I say, the staff for Right to Offend Media is available anytime, Hollywood Movie Studio. You call Paramount, you call Warner Brothers, we'll get right on it. We'll write you some fire material. I promise you, people will watch it. I will write you a stoner buddy comedy, right? We can write you a fucking whatever. And we'll use AI to do it. So fuck those people and their pretentious lifestyles that require like a $6 million mansion, and then Madonna's crying during COVID in a bath of rose petals like we're all the same because COVID. Fuck all these people, man.
Listen, people are worried about like, oh my god, what comes after Tom Cruise is done with what happens after the Mission Impossible franchise comes to an end. I'll give people the options. I'll give people the movie rights to this book as long as I get a part in it. Furthermore, we can make Shmuley one of the main actors to play one of my characters.
Vivek Ramaswamy.
Well, that's the thing. It's not as hard to write the direct that they write as it is to like, because like I tend to like a higher form of art, I guess. I'm a bit snobbish myself. And like what they write is dumb. If I go back and watch, this is why I'm such a fucking snob about like new media, is because when I go back and watch a film from the 50s and 60s, it's written like I'm an adult and they're an adult. Right. And that's not how anything is written anymore. It's written for children. I read books. I play video games. You know what? Most video games are written for adults. They have a higher reading at level because you know what? There's a lot of reading in a lot of video games.
Yeah. No.
The average game player is a bit more used to that.
Same is true for comic books too. Like a lot of the big vocabulary words I learned as a kid. I learned,
dude, comic books, and that's the sad thing, the state that the comic book industry is in. Because I grew up on Marvel specifically. Like I was a Marvel fanboy. I had the whole run of the original Ghost Rider. I had like, and that was like a obsession. So that movie.
Oh yeah.
should have never happened. That's my favorite dude because look, he's a guy that rides a motorcycle with a flaming fucking skull and beats people with a chain. What is more? And because he's made a deal with the devil and he's cursed. That is so badass. That is so 90s. That is so quintessentially like metal that he can't help but like even above Spider-Man. I loved Ghost Rider. And then they butchered. Look what you did to my boy.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, I was in that same camp with Daredevil for a long ass time. Now, granted, Netflix did
They've
do
done right by Daredevil. They never done right by Ghost Rider.
Yeah. Netflix did right by Netflix did right by Daredevil, but then Disney fucked it up by buying the rights to those. So,
but yeah, I was big into reading always, but comic books jumped out at me. I'd get them for like 70 cents at the store when they'd come out, and it would be mostly Marvel, and that's what we had. And then we collected the comic book trading cards that came out in the early 90s, and I had a whole set. I had all of them.
Yeah, I have a few of those around here too, in the boxes behind me. So
yeah, those shits were dope. Especially they had like the special series that was like Wolverine versus, and it was all his greatest battles.
Yeah,
and obviously Wolverine was the hot shit at the time because the X-Men series was on, which was also well done. And if you go back and watch X-Men the animated series or Spider-Man the animated series from the 90s, another thing you'll find is they may not talk to you like you're an adult, but they talk to you like you're a preteen. Nowadays, everything, even the adult movies, talk to you like you're a child.
I've actually been rewatching the 90s Spider-Man cartoon because that's what I grew up with. And it's like, wow, even though this was written for
it assumes you're a kid, but not a stupid kid.
Right.
And that's because Stan Lee had a hand in it, and that's how he was. He used those big words on purpose to get kids to talk. Like the whole Spider-Man thing was like every little thing about Spider-Man, if you look into Stan Lee about it, was intentional, right?
Yeah.
To be a good example for children.
I read his autobiography, Excelsior, back when I was in high school. Great read. I mean, it's probably like 10 or 12 years old now, but still, very well.
But look at children's content today. Is the thoughtfulness put in? I don't think it is. I watched some of it. I screened that shit for my son. He asks for some shit. The funny one is he was asking for, there's a Goosebumps video game on Xbox, and it was popping up in his feed as an ad. And I have a thing. It's all family setting. He can't just buy anything, right? You have to ask, and it comes up. And I was like, buddy, we have that on disc. So I put it in for him. He played for like 5 minutes, and he was like, Dad, it's too scary. I was like, yeah, and you wanted me to waste $40 on a thing we already had that you don't even want to play. Come on now.
Yeah.
But that's, I don't know. New media for children is just most of it is just shit out with the first keywords that can hit the algorithm and get their metrics up. That's what even the movies. They're looking for meme moments. They're making these movies just a complete meme. They've literally made like the Emoji Movie and shit. It's just there's nothing left. There's nothing that hasn't been done. And all they do is remakes and remasters. And so it's not so weird for me to say I only watch older content and like I keep up with wrestling. In that, and when I say that, it means I watch the occasional clip from AEW and I watch the pay-per-views of WWE because they're free.
Yeah.
With SummerSlam's coming up, that's gonna be fun. And did you see? Speaking of which, you kind of follow AEW. Did you see Kenny Omega get dropped on his fucking head?
Oh yeah, that was
Forbidden Door.
That popped up in my feed a bunch of times, dude. Yeah.
I don't like watching spots like that in wrestling. Like I watched a lot of hardcore when I was young because I was a teenager. ECW was hot, all that kind of shit. But I look back now, man, I ain't got the stomach for it. And the reason I choose WWE is I can watch it with my kid most of the time. Because even if there's something really bad, like Brock Lesnar bloodies somebody up or whatever, it all makes sense. It's not kind of hokey. And like AEW is just not for kids. The audience swears on AEW.
Right. How are we doing on time?
Well, I was worried you
you.
guys were gonna be off the air before I got back. I'm good.
Oh no!
We got to talk about the Barbie movie, man.
We did.
It just genuinely filled me with energy. I had a feminist that was triggered about me reclaiming the film, in her words, which was just hilarious. I mean, it's just funny, a grown person legitimately upset that I'm reclaiming.
Literally, legitimately upset what somebody who liked the film thinks of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is what I don't get. It's the Barbie movie, bro. I'm not the target demographic. I might give it a watch one day eventually just because of your thing, because it'll be a funny meme. But like, I wasn't upset about it. And it's like the Disney stuff. They're remaking their old classics. It's like, yeah, they're kicking they're kicking Disney adults in the nuts with these films. And Disney adults hold up their operation if they didn't realize it.
Yeah, no.
Snow White and the 7 diverse magical people is not going over the way that they wanted it to. And the funny thing is they based the not having dwarfs thing almost entirely on Peter Dinklage's comments about it, and he's like the woke guy. But every other major little person actor, whether they like to be called midgets or dwarves or little people, I want to include all of them, but everyone I've seen, including fucking Hornswoggle was the first one, he spoke out about it really early on, is saying like, you're cutting us off, you're closing the door behind you, motherfucker.
Yeah. And let's be real clear.
These are some of the few jobs that we can get with our particular set of disabilities. And it's tough, man. Hey, I'm tall, so when I go out in public, instantly people will look at me. You can talk about the hair and the beard, but like before that, I was a clean-shaven baby face at one point in my life, and I still got it because you're just tall, right? And it's the same thing for them. When they go out in public, it's hard, and they have certain disabilities, things they can't do. They can't lift stuff, whatever. Each person's individual. But one thing they've always been able to do is work in entertainment. Back in the days, yes, it was called the freak show. But you know what? A lot of them will say that they'd rather have a job at the freak show than no job at all.
Yep.
But especially acting, good gigs, like all of them are like, I'd love to play a dwarf in Snow White. That would be an honor. I saw Wee Man came out the other day and said that he was like, what the fuck? They're thinking about, because there's only so many little people actors, right? And so they probably talk on occasion.
Well, yeah, I mean, they do. And what I was going to say in regards
except
to
maybe to Peter Dinklage, maybe he's not in the club, right?
So
I could understand that with how much of an asshole he comes off.
Well, a lot of them are mad at Peter Dinklage because, let's face it, Peter Dinklage is famous for one thing and one thing only, and that is Game of Thrones.
Exactly. And he was picked because of that.
Yeah.
He wasn't picked because of his acting. I know people will say he's a good actor. I only know him through Destiny. And I know that they removed his voice acting because he phoned it in so badly.
Yeah. No, look, he is.
They literally replaced all of his voice acting with somebody else because it was so bad. So that's all I know about Peter. And then he said this.
Yeah.
And all these guys are saying, I know Hornswoggle was the first one to come out and say it. And I was talking to him about it on Twitter. This was like almost a year ago now. And he was like, look, you're cutting off a whole community of people who are like you, who are just trying to get work from 6 to 7 figure jobs that will have them immortalized on film in one of the most classic stories in like American media ever, forever, right? As in a children's movie. You're cutting them off from something that's like the ultimate role if you're a dwarf.
Yeah.
To be in Snow White and play Doc. Imagine playing like Sleepy. Imagine being Dopey. That's your career. That could make you forever.
Yeah, and with it being with it being Disney, you know that they're not going to do it like offensively or anything like that either. You
Well,
know,
apparently they are, because there's one dwarf, and then there's the 6 diverse enchanted people.
to me that seems more offensive than just
That's what a
7.
lot of people are saying, even leftists.
Yep.
But it's so shoehorned that you're kind of fucking. So if dwarf was to denote them as this is what's different about them, this is what makes them other, you're just replacing that with diversity. Aren't you supposed to be normalizing diversity instead of saying they're the other?
Well, so lefties always do this thing with me, Max, where they say, "Oh, Sam, you're differently abled," and I'm like, "What the fuck does?"
Why do you get a pussyfoot around it? You know?
Well, it's like, okay, differently abled. That could mean a bunch of shit, right?
Well, it's like okay, but compared to a person who can't do or who doesn't have any disability at all, right? What can they not do that you can? Because that would be differently abled, right? You have a different ability that they don't have. That's why it's a stupid thing to say.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying though.
You're disabled. You're lacking an ability that other people have. That's what it means. That's why it's not an offensive term. It's technical. It goes back to Latin, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the
root word dis, add abled.
Yeah, it does, and I mean I've heard it so much that it doesn't offend me, because it is what it is.
What does it say in the Bible, Sam?
Cripple.
The Bible said. That's why I never had a problem with you joking about that, or you guys saying that, because that would make sense. It says it in the fucking Bible.
Well, and leprosy is on the rise in our state. So,
for fuck's sake, Florida man got leprosy now.
That's why Sam's in a wheelchair.
Hey, if you got leprosy, no.
that's fake news.
If you got leprosy, at least gators don't want to eat you. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it's a trade-off.
Oh yeah, that's.
Wow.
They're just leveling up, gaining that gator immunity, right?
You know,
it's like Fallout
video.
Tampa.
That video of the hillbilly with the moonshine, and he's got the snake, and he's like, "Bite me! He won't bite me because I got the best moonshine." I would love, if I had leprosy, I'd do the same thing with alligators. Like, he's too chicken shit to bite me because I got leprosy. Just running out there with like raw chicken, rubbing it on my chest. Bite me, boy.
Peak Florida optics.
Just poke him in the eye.
So Max, we actually have some fan mail, or I don't know if it's necessarily fan mail, but 2 weeks ago, you and I went pretty hard on Andrew Tate, criticizing him.
I challenged him to a fight.
Yes,
I stand by that.
And so, I guess one of his
fucking you up, bro.
I guess
talking to you, Tate. You fucking lily-livered bitch.
I guess one of his Cobra heads, or whatever his fan club is called.
Cool. What do they got to say? They're gonna try and sound smart, or are they really angry, or are they trying to sound smart? Because they usually open up trying to sound smart.
Yeah, something along the lines of, well, you guys completely misunderstand what Tate is about. He's actually not. He's actually not about being. He's actually not like literally trying to make men exceptional. Which, by the way, yes, he is. I literally heard him say that. So,
I don't know. Everything I heard, he's a fucking shit talking punk.
Yeah,
that's my analysis of him. I don't need to go into detail about his intellectualism or what his message is. He's a shit talking punk that's leading men into this toxic bullshit that's gonna get them. Yeah, you might get laid, right? It's that same bullshit pickup artist shit we've been seeing for years. It might get you laid, but you ain't gonna feel fulfilled, and you're never gonna be him, because he's at the top of the pyramid in the scheme that you're in, bro. You're at the bottom. Maybe some pussy runs down the pyramid to you, but you can get it on your own. You don't need his masculinity to rub off on you. That's gay. You don't need any man's masculinity rubbing off on you. You need to find it inside yourself, bro. You're a king.
Yeah.
You're a king. You're a king. Act like it. But you don't need him. You don't need me. You're put on this earth. You're the king of your own fucking domain. Have some dignity. Have some self-respect. That's how you fucking act like a man. I don't see him having any of that shit. He doesn't have dignity. What fucking dignity? Come on.
Yeah.
He might respect himself, but it's this inflated narcissistic ego bullshit that's premised on you clicking like on his video, because if you stopped, he wouldn't like himself so much. He'd probably shoot himself in the head like these faggots usually do. You want to prop him up from the bottom of his pyramid scheme, by all means, bro. But that cum is drizzling down off the top of the pyramid. He's coming right in your mouth.
Well, and also
maybe that'll make you a man, huh? Maybe you'll get a little of this tea in there.
Well, and also the fact that he uses terms like the Matrix and red pill, like, ooh, listen, the Matrix and red pill, like, that's been part of the vernacular for a decade
long
now.
Before he was around.
Yeah,
long before he was around.
Look,
he can talk some kids maybe into a better lifestyle than they're leading, I guess, but I don't see what he's promoting as a great lifestyle. I'm not promoting that, and I don't think that that's masculine at all. I think it's feminine. I think it's peacocking. I think it's covering up for the insecurity that you fucking feel. I was gonna quote the Ghetto Boys, but it includes a few N-bombs. But a real gangsta ass motherfucker doesn't talk much, because a real gangsta ass motherfucker doesn't flex nuts, because a real gangsta ass motherfucker knows he got him. Right. You ain't gotta flex nuts, bro. Any motherfucker flexing nuts, or another thing he does is he counts other men's money. That's woman shit, bro. That's woman shit. I ain't gotta look at how much money a motherfucker has to know his worth as a man. I see how he comes at me. I see the respect that he has or doesn't have. I see how he carries himself and treats other people. So you want to flex nuts all day? You think it impresses the fucking broads? Yeah, it impresses gold diggers. And then he catches these gold diggers in a net, and maybe it's human trafficking, maybe it's not, because depending upon the law in the country he's in, and I'm not a legal expert in our country, let alone that one. But what I do know is I won't. No, that's not the masculinity that I would work for, or drop shipping scams, like whatever.
Even if it's not illegal, just because something isn't illegal doesn't mean it's not suspect.
If you read the Bible, if you're a follower of the fucking Christ, it's not a lifestyle you would lead.
He says a lot of
which he's not, by the way.
The stuff that I agree with him on is usually the most like obvious shit to people who aren't like deeply lost, like single, raised by single mothers in like a blue state, and they're Zoomers and they're just lost soy boys. And the way he does it,
I understand how he got to him, right? Because Joe Rogan and shit, right? He gets on Joe Rogan, and there's these guys exactly like you just described, and they hear some of the things he's saying about women, because that's the thing. Some of the things the pickup artists say about women are true, but one, they kind of exclude, they make it out to all women, right? And then two, a good woman isn't going to respond to the shit they're teaching you. You're not going to find a good woman that way. You're going to find a whore. You're going to find a gold digger. You're going to find a bitch that's out to get you before you get her.
When he does that, Max, it's like he says it in the most provocative way imaginable, and this triggers the left. And so because of this, every time he would
rebel
say
status.
Yes, every time he would say anything, there would be a controversy about it, and this propelled him forward. Right. However, the problem that I see that the left has is that Andrew Tate kind of adopts most of their strategies. Andrew Tate, the thing that he doesn't do is like really try to overturn the system. He's just like, hey, how about you use the system to fuck each other over? How about instead of overturning the sexual revolution and trying to go back to the past or whatever, how about you just treat women who are promiscuous as useless and abuse them, basically. And then if you find a good woman, then keep her. Why don't you just like seek status and signal to others that you have that status in order to gain things, which is fundamentally, eminently reasonable to do given all of the policies and culture that has been built.
It's all built on a fucking hole that you're filling. That's not fulfilling, and it might work
We
for
know
him,
that.
and people can live that way. That's the thing. There's a subset of people that can live this unfulfilling lifestyle and be perfectly happy with it, but most of you can't. That's why you want a woman. Most of you don't want a whore because you just go pay for one. You want a GF, right? You want an ideal 4chan meme style fucking girlfriend.
They're triggered by Andrew Tate for the same reason that they're triggered that I like the Barbie movie. It's wait, no, not like that.
Yeah, exactly. Which is fine. Look, I'm not saying he should just be silenced. I think he should talk, but I think it's fair to push back against his brand of masculinity with the one that I know and believe in wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
And mine is based on reading the classics. Mine is based on Western civilization. I had to learn mine because I actually didn't have a proper father.
Yeah.
Right. But what I push, I feel I'm proud of myself. I might not have as much money as him, but again, he said nobody can criticize them without saying they'll fight him. So I say I'll fight him, right? Because I know as a man, even if I fucking lose, if I fought a professional fucking fighter, right? As a man, I can hold my fucking head up high. And I also know that I'm bigger than him, and I'm actually confident I could win that fight.
Well,
because I'm bigger than most people.
He would try to box
I'm a fucking
you,
giant.
and you would grab him.
Of course he tried to box me. That's the stupidest thing you could do. I got these long fucking arms.
But no, I you and I don't disagree, and I wasn't really defending him in any sense.
No, I know you. I know you weren't. I'm just making.
I agree with
point.
him. I actually, my critique of him, I'm not going to attack him on the points that like most people would expect me to attack him, being sort of a conservative, just because I don't really see the need to do so. But the fact of the matter is that I disagree with him on the same shit that I disagree with the left on. It's a repercussion of the sexual revolution. I kind of view him as like a comeuppance for some of these people. It's like, what did you expect? Yeah, now that 20-year-old guy is going to be like, yeah, why don't I just manipulate women to get what I want? Why don't I just try to...
And a lot of people see him that way, as like, they don't even care. The only reason I push back is because I look at the long view of imagine a world where all the young men adopt his philosophy. I think it would be a detestable world that I wouldn't want to live in.
Oh, I agree.
Because I think he's a detestable person. So I'm going to push back for that reason. And I know a lot of people on the right don't want to, because he does piss the left off and he pushes the right buttons. But I just like, and I have to, I literally have to, just because of the way he is, throw in that, I'll fight you.
Well, let me
set it up, Tate, you bitch.
No, look, we have to let the Tate revolution happen. Then when it fails inevitably, and then the men are lost again, then we'll pick up the pieces.
No. We're gonna fight. Me and him in a cage, 1-on-1.
Let me also just,
and I'm gonna win. I'm gonna win, and that's the declaration of the end of the Tate revolution.
Let me also just say this, though.
Just like I am now, I'm not even gonna train like as a fighter, because I've been trained as a fighter my whole life. I'm gonna keep running and lose some weight, but not too much, right? Because that's my fucking advantage. Because I could pick a guy like him up and throw him. It's hard to get close to a punch with a guy that's like got long arms and knows how to grapple.
Let me just say this, though, to Shmuly's point. I don't think Andrew Tate actually wants the sexual revolution overturned.
I don't think he wants to fight me either.
No, I'm not saying that he wants to. What I'm saying is that he wants because he wants to do his own thing, but his own thing is a perpetuation of it, but the left doesn't like it. And when these young men finally reach the point that they're trying to achieve, they're going to feel unhappy and lost just like they did before. And that's when you come in and say, actually, see, you didn't rebel against that. You didn't rebel against
part of it.
There's a deeper part of the matrix you're still within, to borrow from their methodology.
Right, but what I'm saying too is I don't think Andrew Tate actually wants young men to better their own lives, because if they
He
do,
he
then
doesn't
he's out of a
care.
job.
Yeah, he's at the, like I say, he's at the
Yeah.
top of the pyramid, and you're drinking his manhood. Right? If you're watching his
Yeah.
content, that's what you're
Man.
fucking doing, because that's all he's preaching about. This is how to be like me. Oh yeah, jacking himself off. I've seen his fucking videos. This is
I mean,
this is
in
what he does. He
modernity,
jacks off how fucking gray he is, all in your fucking
Yeah.
face hole, and you have this parasocial relationship with this homo, and you fucking want to be his bitch. Like, fight me, Tate.
I
You
agree
bitch.
I agree with all of that, but like the sort of like
Come
college
on.
age potential like frat boy guy who's like,
God.
wow, man, I'm being red pilled, I'm getting out of the matrix. Like, we can tell them not to go bang the dumb broads around them and not to lift a bunch of weights to get abs or whatever. Like, we can say any of the stuff. Don't chase material possessions, work on yourself or whatever. But like, really, do we blame them in the current world for doing those things? I think not.
No,
I don't blame
I think it's
anybody.
eminently reasonable given the incentive structure around them. I think all of the incentives are bad. I think all the incentives are flawed, and that's why people are doing this stuff.
I'm just holding on to, I'm just a relic of an older time, is what it is.
Yeah, I don't blame the kids, but
And it's funny because I'm a rebel against the culture myself, right? Like, I wanted to talk about, if we could, vaping at some point, because I had a thing about that. But like, I'm a fucking music guy. I'm a rock and roll guy, right? Like, I was around that scene. That's what I did. It was a hobby. It was a job. It was all of the above. And like, that's why I got into smoking, right? Which is why that brings in the vaping thing. But like, I had not the most conservative, family friendly values for my time. That's why I coined the term like kid rock conservative, because there's a lot of motherfuckers in my age bracket who fall into this category of, we're a bit rough around the edges for what you think of the normal GOP, and Trump hits those fucking people. He hits them hard because they're like Americana as fuck. That's what white America is now, to a large degree, right? It's this entity that is, and for better or for worse. And a lot of them, like, they really aren't racist because they grew up around other people, so they don't feel that strongly about that particular topic. They do feel strongly about immigration, but they're afraid to get called racist. This is the climate that Trump rode into on, because he was the only one to talk about it. And it's only gotten worse. Biden's left open the border. People see that shit. People's jobs are getting fucking cut. Their hours are getting cut. Their health insurance is more expensive. Food is more expensive. I mean, at some point, how long are you going to keep shooting yourself in the foot? Independent voters that vote Democrat. If we're assuming elections aren't stolen, of course.
Yeah, good question.
And they shoot themselves in the foot with Andrew Tate, because if you just left him alone and didn't feed into the controversy, less people would hear him. The same thing with like Fuentes and other of these fucking people. They push them. That's why I've always been saying about the most radical, insane voices that say really radical things or sound like, not aligned with like a traditional conservative values.
Well,
even if they're not a Fed, like I did say earlier, like that's a Fed, maybe they're not. Like, I don't think Nick Fuentes knows he's a Fed, or at least I don't think he didn't up to a point, right? It's just that they put people in those organizations who encourage it to turn into a clown show so they can attract clowns, so they can arrest them and be like, look at these evil right-wing boogeymen. Don't be a fucking clown. They're arresting Andrew Tate. I don't know how associated I would ever want to be with somebody who's under investigation like that.
Yeah, especially for human trafficking, allegedly. Yeah.
And that his defense is, well, it shouldn't, if it is illegal, it shouldn't be, basically.
Yeah. That's
it is what it is, right? You could be who you want to be. You could advocate what you want to advocate. I'm going to say what I think about it. Andrew Tate came up. That's what I think about him. I don't think what he's promoting is what I consider traditional Western masculinity. It's like Shmuley said, it's a counter revolution to the revolution of the sexual revolution. And it's meant to fucking be provocative and edgy, right? And that's why his whole presentation is edgy. That's why he says you were gonna fight me to criticize me. That's why I'm not afraid of anybody, because I'm a man and I stand by what I fucking say. And if that's the stupid fucking criteria for it, then I'd gladly do it. And he's not gonna do it because I'm a nobody, right? But since he says that, yeah, a real man would stand up for what you fucking say.
Yeah,
say,
Ken would.
I can't. Yeah, Ken would stand up for what he fucking believes in. But as a man, if I'm like, oh, well, I can't criticize this guy because he wants a one-on-one fair fight. Okay, if that's your criteria, let's go. I'll put the fucking gloves on. I'll get in the fucking ring. You might kick my ass, but a man doesn't fucking care because a man is a man. And he'll stand by his fucking honor. And I don't think that's something this motherfucker actually knows about. Not really.
Right. No, I mean, I agree with you. I think,
And if that upsets his fans, then so be it. You know?
I think there's also more to masculinity, and this is kind of my point. There's more to masculinity than just being the buff
banging hoes, yeah.
And and driving Lamborghinis. Like, in a way, Andrew Tate is the most like stereotypical
hypergamy is a feminine trait.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. It's a feminine trait.
Yeah, no, and Andrew Tate is that.
So is peacocking, right? That's a feminine trait. That's why peacocks are interesting animals in the scheme of things, because the men do something that's traditionally feminine in the animal kingdom. That's why they study them so extensively. That's why you can find peacocks at like the local farm in a lot of places in America, because they studied them so extensively. They bred a lot of them. But what they discovered is it's just a weird quirk of nature that peacocks do this feminine dance thing in a way that no other species does, by having the colorful feathers. And so, yeah, peacocking is a feminine trait. Like I'm just pointing out these things he's doing are feminine traits because he's doing a feminist counter-revolution. He's doing like, okay, is this the kind of feminism you mean, bitch? And I get that. And if that makes you feel good, fine. But I'm telling you right now, that's not a path to like fulfillment in the long term. And the problem is, a lot of these guys don't see a long term because things are so bad and they're doomer pilled, you know. But there will be a long term, and it's not going to be this Fallout hellscape where you're a superhero, right? That a lot of people think it's going to be this cleansing fire that's like a video game where everything will go our way and we'll win real quick and then we'll make everything right. Like, that's not what any of the doomsday scenarios actually look like, especially for you personally, unless you're goddamn the most Rambo person who ever Ramboed, and you could still get shot twice and die.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Even if we have a fallout scenario, you're not going to be the one to survive. In fact, you might be one of the first ones to go. You know, ironically,
but it's hard for young men to confront that mortality, right? That's what that's what shell shock is from war. Actually, they find that older soldiers are less prone to get it simply because it's the first time a lot of them actually confront their mortality in a stressful situation. Now it's called PTSD, but in World War II they called it World War I. Sorry, they called it shell shock because they had never seen it before, and it came from like getting shelled. Right, a fucking bomb goes off right next to you, kills 3 of your friends, and then you're just like, what the fuck? You know, that condition, now known as post-traumatic stress disorder, was known as shell shock. Yeah. And it's a thing that happens when you confront your mortality in such a brutal and invasive fashion. And so a lot of young guys, they can't. So they don't see the long term, and they don't see themselves as anything but invincible. I was one such young man, ladies and gentlemen.
I think we all were I was certainly.
Yeah. And what Andrew Tate recommends is quite reckless for a young man. It will ruin your life. If you have a bunch of ex-girlfriends that you don't give a shit about, that will bite you in the ass. You'll end up with, because you're not him, and he's living this perfect, autistic existence where he has his condom laid out to just slip it in or whatever. Like, he's a rich guy, right? And you're not. right? And so what's going to happen to you is you try to bang all these broads. You're going to knock one or two of them up. You're going to have child support payments. Okay. That's real life. That's what happens when you're a player in real life. Maybe you got an STD, right? And it's embarrassing. So you don't want to tell the doctor about it, you know? And
I was going to say, you better get snipped.
You better, get snipped, but then you still got the STD problem.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's
But
so
if you
many
get,
problems.
but that's antithetical to fucking Tate's strategy, right? Because he said you'll have kids when you get older.
Yeah.
So he's encouraging not to get snipped. So you might knock up some broads. As careful as you want to be, bro. As careful as you want to be. Condoms fail.
Yep.
All the time. Okay? So anytime your dick is in a broad, and especially if you come there, let's be real about it, you could knock a broad up. They could tell you, oh, it won't happen if you do it in this position. Wrong. It won't happen if you do it in water. Wrong. It won't happen if you bend her over 360 degrees and do a flip. Wrong.
But you know when it wouldn't happen?
It won't happen if I pull out. Wrong.
So you're telling me that if I put a wig on Sam, let's not go into that.
Hey, with artificial wombs, Sam's gonna be a mother in no time.
Well, listen, you know, in regards to that whole thing, yeah, that'll never happen. Trans will never be real women. Sorry, folks.
If you want to be fulfilled, just better yourself and like stand for something, bro. That's as simple as it is.
Yeah, although, you know, that's a bit hard for me
him.
since I can't actually stand, but
Metaphorically speaking.
yeah.
Crawl for something, god damn it.
I know.
That's almost more epic, right?
Yeah.
No,
because we're gonna have his what's that fucking weird guy in the wheelchair that got elected and stood up at the fucking GOP there?
Madison Cawthorn.
We're gonna have our moment when Sam gets elected to office, and he's gonna do that bit where he's gonna stand up out the wheelchair, and he's gonna. That's your bump, right? Your lifetime bump. You get one big bump on your bump card, and that's the one where you purposely just fall forward out of the wheelchair and off the stage, all dramatically WWE style, and then get back up and crawl back up to the podium and just start giving your speech without saying a word.
Yeah. Totally.
God, that would be so fucking epic.
That would be the greatest, most comedic moment. You got to do it safe so you don't actually get hurt.
Right,
you know,
right, yeah.
Might need some practice for this, but it'd be the greatest wrestling style bump in the history of like television, right?
So yeah. So also another person who wrote into the show. These are comments from. These are comments from Spotify actually. So thank you. These were both anonymous, so I don't actually know who sent these, but
cool. I respect that.
What people want to know, with Jordan Peterson's kind of reemergence lately, what do we as a group think of Jordan Peterson? I mean, I've kind of covered Peterson before. I think he's kind of a grifter, but I think he's harmless.
Everybody's a grifter nowadays. There's like levels of it, and he doesn't seem so bad on that tip.
Yeah, I think Peterson's message is
Tim Pool being a 10, Jordan Peterson's like a 3 or 4 in my mind.
Well, okay, but see, like I think my point with bringing up Jordan Peterson after Andrew Tate is I actually think that Jordan Peterson, say what you will about him, but his message about masculinity is a lot more attainable than
That's
that.
fair. My thing with Jordan Peterson is I don't follow him closely, so I've seen things that he said that are like retarded, and then other things that he said that make a lot of sense, like the clean your room thing for a young guy. Especially fatherless guys, right? I think a lot of them will resonate.
Yeah.
And again, I was a fatherless guy, right? And I had to learn masculinity. I learned not from, this is my only suggestion, though, for those young fatherless guys that may be looking for that kind of masculine guidance, or maybe your father's not strong enough. I wouldn't turn to internet celebrities and form a parasocial relationship with them.
Right.
I would read classic Western literature. I would read Plato, Socrates. I would be out there reading just Marcus Aurelius and Shakespeare and everything, the Bible and everything in between that like our ancestors read that built this society. And I say our ancestors because no matter what, if you're a part of the American society, it's premised on that line of thinking and how it changed and evolved over the years. So it's important, I think, to look at the history of how we got here. And then when you do, you understand the founders a lot better and you understand what's going on today a lot better. And I just find that maybe an internet talking head maybe isn't the best basis of education in a lot of this. And a lot of times people replace an actual base of education about Western history and philosophy and economics and war and everything else and art and culture that has changed over these years, language and the roots of it, you know. The average person in America in the 1800s spoke at least partial Latin.
Yeah. No, that Max, you essentially just said what I was going to bring up,
Or rather wrote, I should say.
Which is that essentially, whether it's Jordan Peterson or Andrew Tate or hell, even us, forming parasocial relationships with people online and for like life guidance is very weird to me, at least. Like,
yeah,
go out if you really want a strong male role model. Go out into your community and find a male role model in your local community.
You know, I looked around at what, you know, I thought made masculinity up, and I took from a lot of places and people, and I just do my own thing. Like some people, yeah, they look down on me because I am that rock and roll lifestyle guy, but like I had my kicks. Maybe I'm more of a edgy risk taker than other people of my age bracket, but there's been those always, right? And I wasn't too edgy, you know what I mean? I just went to a lot of concerts. I, you know, did radio. I produced music, and I was into the scene. I know a lot of those people, and it's interesting to bring it back to the Ice Cube interview. That's the thing Tucker asked him. Why is it that rappers tend to be so much more open-minded than other people that I've met?
Yeah, that was great.
And it's true because I've some of the most open-minded people, for better or worse, the most open-minded people I've ever met are rappers, or, you know, and aspiring rappers for that matter.
Yeah. No, same here. In fact, yeah, I mean, we're working on, you know, between the three of us, we're working on getting a few of, you know, those rappers on here.
Yeah,
So.
well, because like their shit's already rebel, and that's the thing. That's the danger in a lot of things. If you, that's why I wanted to bring up the vaping criminality thing in my state.
Yeah.
So a friend of the show who's been on before, Craig, who is, you know, he knows his shit. He's a chemical engineer or whatever. So I'm not gonna say he's wrong. Posted a thing about vaping, and it said doctors warning because of mounting evidence that even for the cessation from smoking, vaping is still bad. And what they're comparing it to is a case zero. So vaping is bad compared to not vaping. But vaping is better than smoking in all studies across the board. It's called harm reduction, and it gets a lot of people to quit. Now, in my state, they didn't care, and that same rhetoric that they were using is why they banned it and made it illegal. And that the reason I bring that up right now is when you criminalize otherwise lawful people, they start to maybe think about breaking other laws. They're already an outlaw. Right? That's why pot dealers will start selling crack. That's why, you know, it's a slippery slope. But consenting adults who want to use it to quit smoking should be allowed to, is pretty much the baseline position that I've always held.
Yeah, well,
And it
well,
saved my life.
Well,
And the studies that they were talking about, one of them was falsified, and it used my information to do it. Do you want to know how?
please share.
Yeah, so they said that vaping increased the rate of heart attacks significantly. But what they neglected to say was that whether people who vaped had a heart attack before or after they started vaping. I started vaping, like many of the people in the study, started vaping to quit smoking because I had a heart attack. Right? They said that the vaping caused the heart attack that I had before I started vaping.
Oh yeah, yeah. Of course they did, probably. So
it's dishonest. Now, to say that vaping is good for you, no. If you don't smoke, don't ever pick up a vape. It's a stupid idea.
Well, yeah. So this is the whole. So lawmakers do this stupid thing, where this is the whole it's for the children type thing.
Yeah.
Where they want to ban vaping because it's bad for children, right? Which it is. We all agree on that. But then they punish adults who are responsible and who have the authority to make decisions for themselves.
Because it's a conspiracy. Like, it really is a conspiracy that's like really easy to prove. It's not even like a theory. There's an agreement with the tobacco companies in every single state in the U.S. Instead of people suing because tobacco caused cancer and they lied, they came to the master settlement agreement, which means that each state, for every pack of cigarettes they sell, has to put money into this fund, right? And if they stop selling cigarettes, they lose money from the fund because it's based on how many cigarettes your fucking state sells.
Yeah.
So, and that's why they have little scan labels on the bottom of them with a fancy, hologram thing on every pack of cigarettes that you're getting, is because they have to do this for the master settlement agreement. And so what happened is, in all the states that banned vaping, Philip Morris, better known now as Altria, but better known as Philip Morris, the Marlboro company, bought Juul, the biggest vape company, and they said, hey, government, we have regulated devices that we can sell on your market. And so they come in, and now you can get them at the gas station again, even though they banned them from the gas station because they didn't want kids to get them in the first place. Now they're there because it's Philip Morris is good. You see, big tobacco running the vape game because they see that the jig is up with fucking smoking for a lot of people. There's no problem here at all. Nobody ring the alarm bell. The lobbyists didn't come in and make it say, hey, we can sell these ones, right? Because we're the big guys. What was happening, what they did is they used cartel-like tactics in conjunction with the government to stop a small DIY, small business revolution of vaping, because it was primarily run by small businesses, American businesses, especially the juice, which is why they went after flavors. Because we made the flavors that everybody else in the world considered safe. Because it came from America, it was held to a standard by the Vaping Association. I forget what they were called. So China was buying juice from us and making the mods. That's what was happening. And all these small companies were outsourcing. They design a mod or a fucking whatever, and they'd sell it through these Chinese companies. That was the operation for years. And why did they shut down just specifically the flavor thing? And then they let them back in stores as long as it's either made by Philip Morris or Winston-Salem or one of these tobacco companies. Well, then it's fine. Vaping's fine as long as it's the tobacco companies producing it. And once you know it, it gets rolled into the master settlement agreement at the same time they made that decision. There's a lot more at play here than just because Craig's response was, putting anything else besides air in your lungs is bad. And it's like, no shit, Sherlock, but harm reduction exists. So we should ban methadone. And Craig's not calling for a banning. He's like a libertarian kind of guy. That's the line of logic that they're using. And it's like, we should ban methadone because it's bad, right?
Right.
We should ban any type of cessation or harm reduction technique because it's bad. It's like, well, if the original thing is worse, shouldn't people have the option? I don't know.
Yeah. No, I get what you mean. For me, my 2 cents, it comes down to the whole nanny state.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know.
But there's money at play too to be the nanny state and pick and
Oh
choose.
yeah, definitely.
You get to pick and choose the market winner. They picked the fucking big tobacco companies and they shut down all of these handmade operations. That a lot of them, what it is they're not banned in every state, but vaping, the industry is basically dead because what's happened is they fucking shut down their ability to transport between states because they get charged these exorbitant taxes, excise taxes. So for me, I can buy vaping equipment now. I have my one set up on my desk. I sometimes use it on a show. I try to go under the camera though, because vaping on camera is kind of douchey. But they outsourced, all these things to China, so the manufacturing was cheap. But now they're getting charged these excise taxes, so they can't even make it up on the back end because to send me the mod that I ordered that cost $20. Well, the excise tax in Massachusetts is something like $700 or $70 times 3 because it's the same excise tax on a pack of cigarettes, which is like 300%. So that $20 mod ends up costing me like $200. So why would I even do that? And I could have it sent to somebody in Rhode Island that I know or somebody in New Hampshire and just go pick it up and not pay that tax. It's killing the vape industry. But that's what they want. They wanted to kill the small business part of the vape industry, not the whole thing. They want Philip Morris coming in. Philip Morris has pledged to stop making cigarettes by like 2027 entirely. No more Marlboros. Did you know that?
I actually did read something about that.
They have a Marlboro branded what they call heat not burn product that they're going to put on shelves instead, where you stick the cigarette in like a little tube that heats it up, but it's not vaping. But it heats the tobacco just enough that it doesn't burn it and it still smokes. And they're saying that this is better. And that's what they're going to replace Marlboro cigarettes with. Or vapes. They want to get people on Juuls. Big tobacco had took over the market with the help of the government. Nobody cares. Everybody's like, vaping is douchey. Yeah, but vaping can save your life. I don't know.
Yeah.
People should be able to make their own health decisions. This is what I said about Ice Cube, and I stand by it like across the board.
Yep. Yeah. Pretty much.
And
so
I mean, within reason, unless it's really, really dumb, and it's like, hey, could you cut my sternum open with a chainsaw? I'm like, no, probably not, because you're gonna die, But like within reason, like do no harm still applies.
Right, yeah.
I try to be reasonable, Sam. You notice I've been getting wound up more as the shows go on, though.
No, I mean, listen.
The Tate thing gets me going because, like, to say you have to fight me to have an opinion is also a womanly thing to do because he knows nobody will actually take him up on it, or if they do, he can just ignore them.
Listen, Max. The three of us are reasonable podcasters in an unreasonable space. Well, maybe not, but maybe we're not reasonable, but we're reasonable compared to the people we're surrounded by. One thing I want to bring up while we're talking about cigarettes and cancer and whatnot, shout out to Mr. Medicare, and another fuck you to Mersh, because I guess Medicare had a heart attack.
Did he?
Or yeah, things are not looking good for.
Well, that's a shame to hear.
Jim.
Again, like I said about the Bronny James or whatever, like anybody that has a heart attack, that really sucks. And as a fan of Jim's, it really sucks to hear that. If that's true, you never know, because Kiwi Farms will make something up.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? But let me let me pull up the tweet from
as a fellow heart attack survivor. Then that really, really sucks, and I hope that nothing but the best for him.
let me see, because Maya tweeted this earlier. So let me screen share this real quick.
Shout out to Maya, by the way.
Yeah, Maya got out of the internet got out of the sector.
A lot of people are, and some of them I don't even want to name, right? Are just like, we're done with this cancerous bullshit. Good for them, right? It is cancerous bullshit.
Yeah.
The people that stay bogged down in it, I just kind of feel bad for, and some of them can't get out, like the Vickers.
Right.
Unfortunately, but they handle themselves. I don't need to defend any of those people. They defend themselves.
Right. And those people are pretty normal too. At least the Vickers are. So.
Yeah, if you get off the internet, things are pretty normal for the most part.
So, I guess this is from Jim's post account.
Right.
But this post reads
I see that faking cancer was fun, so I decided to fake a heart attack too. Yeah, no, big much heartfelt heart attack survivor to heart attack survivor empathy for Jim here. Like, that really sucks. I hate to even tell my wife that. She's gonna be heartbroken. Jim was like the one person even associated with any of this shit that my wife ever liked.
Yeah, but I do love the fact though that, like, even after Jim had a heart attack, he still, in Mr. Medicare fashion, is taking the piss out of people.
Oh, of course.
Especially Mersh, because you know that Mersh fucking saw this, and you know that even if Mersh doesn't comment on it publicly, he's going to see. Hell, I get reports that he still sees about me, right? And I don't watch Nightwave officially. All I watch are the Angie's random edits clips.
If Jim ever watches this, my advice is go to Budget Vapor, and because I know what he smokes, right? Go to Budget Vapor and get tobacco number 5. You'll thank me later. Get a vape and try that. Because a lot of people will say, I can't get one that tastes kind of like my cigarettes. Tobacco number 5 tastes a lot like his brand of cigarettes. I should know. So there's a pro tip, Jim, because heart attacks fucking suck.
Well, yeah.
They fucking suck, bro.
They absolutely do suck. But then, to have a heart attack and cancer, I mean,
that's what I'm saying. They suck on their own.
Yeah, they suck on their own.
Why you think I'm out here running fucking miles in the middle of a fucking broadcast? I could have fucking just driven over there, but I'm a lunatic. I apologize for that again.
No, man. I mean, listen, I'd rather you be alive to host the show, and more importantly, to be a father.
Well, yeah, my boy was like needing a drink. That's more important. But yeah, I'm out there busting my ass, breaking myself in half, and I feel good about myself. That's where the self-confidence comes from, ladies and gentlemen. And it doesn't have to be physically breaking yourself like I'm talking, because like Sam just wrote a book. Are you proud of yourself, Sam?
I'm fucking proud of myself. By the way, 22 copies were sold in July. Thank you all for those who bought it. And for all the naysayers who were like, "Oh, you only sold 22 copies," I guess it wasn't a best. First off, it's not the end of the year yet, and B, it wasn't my goal to make a bestseller. I never said it was going to be a best seller. I simply said, "Hey, I put this book out. I bet it will sell more copies than a lot of people think."
I want to know how many published books the naysayers have, and then we can talk.
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
As a guy that published books back in the day, it's a big deal when you publish a book. You feel proud of yourself. That's what I'm saying. And you can feel like that. Instead of just hating on him for doing something like that, Do something. You think I could write a better book? Do it, bro.
Yeah.
You're a king. Like I say, you're a fucking king if you make yourself one.
Yeah, the other thing too is you don't, in order to be successful, this is another thing about the sector that just as kind of an outsider that got really tiresome after a while was like all these shows, even Ralph to a certain extent, like had potential for to be successful. But the problem is when you're tearing, and I'm not a kumbaya guy by any stretch of the imagination, but rather than constantly tearing each other down, right? You could, you know, cross promote and actually do something productive.
Yeah, but the nature, it's shock jock bullshit. And the nature of
Yeah.
it is to just get more extreme. And it was all founded on yelling, the worst things they could say at each other. So of course it was going to devolve into that.
Well,
And
yeah.
it's fine, but that wasn't ever really like we were doing that, years before any of that started, and that wasn't fulfilling for us. That's why we changed course.
Right. No, and I get that, but that's what I'm saying too. It's like all this, like Gamergate could have been a thing for good, and yet and yet these people just let it turn to shit basically.
Yeah, I
That
guess I'm not like that's the thing is I wasn't a Gamergate guy. Ironically though, Max Sand was a Gamergate guy because my brother was, and he stole my name. But
yeah.
I saw it happening, and I was like, "Ha, they're finally on it." Because I've been woke to the communist problem since I was
Oh
a kid.
yeah. Oh yeah. Me too. Well,
And I was like, "Oh, baby, first commies! They
Well-
spotted them for the first time. How cute!"
well, well, that was like when all my friends were freaking out about Gamergate. The thing that was the thing that was like the thing that was like weird to me was like how much of a red pill it was for other people because I'm like, yeah, where have you guys been for the past 10 years?
Yeah.
Um
It's good though. I
no,
was
I mean
thinking Spotify today. Speaking of shit like that, Spotify today recommended me Tom McDonald's new track, American Flags. Big recommend because that's like the anthem for our show, man.
yeah.
That shit. Tom McDonald, Adam Calhoun, two of the guys putting it down lately, and it comes fire. Because
Yeah.
everywhere we go, we drenched in American flags. Bitch. That's the aesthetic. All these idiots with these other stupid flags that they're representing autistically, like the aesthetic that's gonna win is the one that's red, white, and blue, with a little bit of yellow here and there.
Props to Spotify for promoting that as well instead of
It also said we're gonna take a look at the hottest tracks of the week, and the first thing it played was "Try This in a Small Town." And so I let it play. I'm not a country guy, but I thought that was cool.
Oh, nice. Yeah, very, very nice. So
We're winning, gentlemen.
we
It
are.
takes time. It takes time, and there's hurdles. And these indictments, we didn't talk about them nearly as much. We didn't talk about the topic either. X is going to give you, Twitter turned to X, and nobody cares. It's still twitter.com, so I'm going to call it Twitter. I'm going to still say Twitter. I've been on Twitter since 2009, so...
Yeah. No,
ain't nothing really changed except the logo on my phone. It took a second to find it.
Yeah, I titled that because I figured we might bring up like X,
Also, I
momentarily.
like light mode. I can see it better. Maybe your eyes, maybe most people's eyes are different, Zoomers, but I like light mode.
No, I actually like light mode too. Like I like dark mode, shocker, at night when it's kind
Yeah.
of murky.
Yeah, it's almost like that for a lot of people. That's why they invented that.
But-
And then the Zoomers come in and they're like, I only like dark mode ever. You don't use dark mode? How dare you? It's like,
But no-
you ain't gonna see you ain't seeing my screen, motherfucker. I took a screenshot. You can read it.
Well, no, but like,
Dick.
but like during the day when I'm writing stuff or even doing like video
Yeah.
editing or something like that, because I'm doing a lot of that now.
Switching between the two is the Chad move because that's how you reduce eye strain.
Yes. No, trying to use dark mode during the day is actually painful to try, at least for
Yup.
me. I don't know how
And
these
then we got to cover real quick. What do you think of the X logo?
I don't think it's bad. I don't see any Illuminati ties like some people are trying to claim.
Whatever.
Um,
It's a very basic X, and he put up a big sign, and they made him take
Yeah.
it down. And it really doesn't matter because on the web, where I mostly use Twitter, because I'm a boomer like that. Nah, I scroll and like right before I go to bed or something. But like,
Yeah,
I mostly use on the web because I'm at a computer a lot of the day.
right.
It's still twitter.com.
Yeah, and people still call them tweets, you know.
It's
Like,
gonna be tweets forever. Like he can try, but he's not gonna get anything with it being a Zeet or as X or whatever to take off. It's
Well,
gonna be a
The
tweet.
thing is that X as a platform that's bigger than Twitter, I think it's a good idea. And I
yeah.
support. It's kind of like Meta. It's like Facebook still exists
Right.
within it.
And so does like the Oculus and all that stuff.
Yeah, and so if it's going to be something like that, where there's a payment process, there's an ecosystem in which everything works together seamlessly, and it's called X. I get
Yeah.
it. That's
Well-
good because X being a stand-in for everything, you know.
That's just like what Google did with Alphabet, right? Google technically became Alphabet, but they didn't necessarily get rid of the Google branding either, or the YouTube branding.
Right. Because why would you? The Twitter thing is I don't know. It'll be fine.
Yeah, it'll be fine. I do think it was a mistake to kind of just get rid of the Twitter branding. Like, maybe say that Twitter is now under the umbrella of X, but don't get rid of the tweet branding. So, I mean, even on my app, it still says tweet. So, yeah.
Well, you know, as a wise man once said, X gonna give it to you. Fuck waiting for you to get it on your own. X gonna deliver it to you.
Indeed. So,
knock, open up the door. It's real.
and this is where I do the once upon a time in Hollywood meme of he said the title of the show.
Damn right.
And pointing. So, anyway, though,
I'm preaching about not smoking. I gotta get off and smoke this blunt with my wife.
Yep. Later.
No, I was waiting for the end of the show. I was just saying, you know, we are running long now.
Yeah, no, we are. All I was gonna say is I don't have anything, really left to talk about.
Right. I love closing statements. That's part of the fun. If the audience who stays through, they're the real heroes.
Yep. Do we have any
shout out to my 2 hour 52 minute motherfuckers? You're the real motherfucker. Comment that you were the 2 hour minute motherfucker. You know who you are.
Do we
I'll give you a game code. The person that comments the exact timestamp properly, because they're the only people that are gonna see this, I will message you personally a free game on Steam.
Yes.
Because you're the real hero.
Yeah,
that's my giveaway this week. And it's a good game too. I won't spoil it.
Yeah. Yeah, and ditto. If you can message either one of us the time code to the end, I'll throw in the audiobook version of Shadows of Deception.
No, the time code of who I shouted out, which is my 2 hour and 52 minute motherfuckers. If you can put you're in the 2 hour 52 minute motherfucker club, you get a free game. Because that's real.
It sounds good. So
what else? And bye Sam's book. It's really important. It's life changing.
And it's good too. So.
Oh no, I wasn't saying that. It's just all right. No, it's good. It's good, but it will change your life. You'll become the man that you once thought you could be.
Yes, indeed. By reading
You
it,
put that on the back of the fucking reprint, right? That's your review.
It's the political thriller that will change your life forever. So
it'll make you contemplate whether you're gay or not, but realize that you're not.
It actually will make you contemplate whether or not the deep state exists. Spoiler alert, it fucking does.
Oh shit.
So
we getting deep in that state.
Alrighty, folks. We'll be back next week.
I did have one thing to point out. Me and my buddy Core, and he's bringing in some Twitch broad that's got quite a few viewers, are going to be doing our MMO project I had been talking about. It's been in the works for a while. It takes a bit to get people coordinated to where you can sink significant hours into a game. But I think we're going to be starting with Dungeons and Dragons Online. So it's going to be me and him, who are two old school players with very different philosophies, because he'll grind for everything. He's the hardcore, and I quit at the first sign of resistance. I'm the casual. I'm very picky about MMOs. And then we figured we'd bring along a noob, and she's never played any of them. She had never really played multiplayer games at all. And so that's going to be the thing. It's quite an undertaking. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be streaming it over with Twitch, as well as I'll be cutting up a final cut to make a video for my main gaming channel. Right here on Rumble, ladies and gentlemen, as well as other
very
places.
Nice. Yeah, and if you want to promote, maybe we can have them come on the show. I'd be happy if they'd be willing. So,
maybe, probably not though. Core's a kind of he doesn't like the politics stuff. He's kind of, I'm not gonna say what his politics are, but I've been friends with him for a long time, if that helps. And I just don't think he would want to go on a political show. But he loves games, and we're going to have a lot of fun with that and do some old games. Lord of the Rings Online, maybe. Some of these old games. Lord of the Rings Online is great, and I would, if you haven't ever played it and you're into like the idea of an MMO, highly recommend it, because it's probably not going to be around forever, and you can just play through with the story of the Lord of the Rings. Like, you go alongside the Fellowship.
Yep.
You even have like the Battle of Helm's Deep and all that shit. It's pretty dope. But I'm rambling on. We were wrapping it up. 2 hour, 52 minute motherfucker in the comments gets a code. Doesn't matter where. If you reach us with that comment code, I'll know you saw it.
Yep. 2 hours and 52 minutes. And if you get to 2 hours and 57 minutes, I'll throw in a Shadows of Deception audiobook for you folks. So, alrighty, folks, take care, and we'll see you next week. God bless, God save this great nation, and God freedom legacy in that order.
Thanks for listening to The Whitfield Report on the NGC Network. Please visit Sam's website at www.thesamwhitfield.com and support Sam on Patreon at patreon.com/Whitfield Report. Until next time, God bless, God save this great nation, and God, freedom, legacy, in that order.